The story kicks off with a human delivering the killing blow to a dragon. The dragon, confused, says he doesn't remember doing anything to make the humans want to take him out. In fact, he reminds them that he's been their ally at times. He figures there's something deeper going on, like maybe the humans are being pushed to do this. But instead of making excuses, he accepts his fate and dies, thinking maybe he's lived too long anyway. He knows this ain't the right end for a divine dragon, especially one who's been around since the Age of Gods. But in the end, he thinks maybe it's not so bad if one divine dragon goes out like this. As he crumbles to dust, he's hoping for the peace of the underworld. But fate had another plan. Instead of fading out, he's reborn in the body of a little child. When he opens his eyes, he sees his parents and an old lady standing in front of him. The old lady, seeing him wake up so fast, figures he might be a prody. His father, full of pride, says of course he's my son. His mother gives him the name Dolan. She introduces him to his father and older brother. Then the story jumps ahead years into the future. We catch up with a grown Dolan staring at the sunset, and a girl named Ari walks up to take him home. He smiles at her, and she asks what's on his mind. Dolan tells her it's nothing, and they both head back to the village. The story explains that Dolan lives in a place called Varin, up near the northern edge of the continental kingdom of Arcrest. The scene shifts to the next morning when Dolan wakes up and goes about his daily routine. In this village, farming is the only hustle, so he's out working the fields every day, earning his living. After breakfast, Dolan heads into the village. He talks about how in Varin, you're considered grown when you hit 15, and folks expect you to live on your own. He's 16 now, and he's already moved out of his folks' house, doing his own thing. Later, he's down at the river fishing with his brother, and his brother brings up how Dolan is going to check out the swamp tomorrow. Dolan says yes, it's got to be done since the lizard men have been missing for a month now. His brother points out that the soldiers in the village should be handling that, but Dolan knows Captain Balin and the other soldiers are busy guarding the place, so no one's going to step up if he doesn't. His brother asks if Dolan's sure he doesn't want him to come along, but Dolan brushes it off, saying he's got it covered. Right then, he feels a tug on his fishing rod, and he reels in the fish. After he hauls his fish back to the village, a lady soldier named Melita peeps his catch and says he's had a good pull, but she tells him he should be getting ready for tomorrow's trip instead of fishing. Dolan brushes it off, telling her he's been prepping bit by bit every day since last week. He thanks her for helping convince the chief to greenlight the mission. Melita shrugs it off, saying it's no big deal since Dolan's always helping train the soldiers. Dolan asks her and the dude with her, Albert, if they're headed out. They tell him they're off to a meeting about the kids' next training session, and Albert says Dolan shouldn't sweat them, he should focus on tomorrow's expedition. After that, Dolan heads home and salts the fish to keep them fresh. Later, Ari pulls up, reminding him it's magic practice day. Dolan wonders if she came to pick him up, but she plays it off, saying she was just in the area. Next, Dolan practices magic with the older lady from before. He shoots a spell called Energy Bolt at a target, and everyone's blown away by how accurate and strong it is. The old lady praises him, saying his attack magic is still on point. Dolan credits her for the skills, and she tells him it's time to work on healing magic, his weakest spot. After practice, Dolan heads home, but he runs into a silver-haired girl along the way. The chief introduces her as Christina and says she'll be staying for a while. He quietly warns Dolan not to offend her, since she's a noble. Dolan shakes her hand, and after she leaves with the chief, he thinks she seems pretty skilled. Later, Dolan comes back to the village after gathering some fruit. He explains that winters here are so cold they'll freeze you to death, and summers are crazy hot too. He mentions he was surprised people even survive in such a tough environment. When he gets to his parents' house, his brother Marco greets him, and Dolan gives them the fruit he picked from the forest. His mom thanks him, and they all sit down to eat a meal she cooked. As Dolan eats, he says her cooking is always top-notch, and his dad tells him that living alone might be chill, but he should think about getting married so he doesn't end up lonely. Dolan recalls his other brother Dylan, saying the same thing, but he tells them he wants to enjoy the single life a little longer. Marco remembers that Dolan's heading to the swamp tomorrow, and their mom hopes he doesn't get into any trouble. Dolan reassures her, saying he's not going to do anything reckless. His dad chimes in, saying it's Dolan's call now since he's grown, but he hopes he comes back safe and doesn't have his mom screaming his name in worry. Dolan promises he'll make it back in one piece and even jokes that he'll have a wild story to tell when he does. The next day, as he's about to head out to the swamp, the whole village shows up to send him off. He thinks it's a bit over the top, but Captain Balin tells him it's not, saying this is the kind of mission the soldiers should handle. Melita steps in, telling the captain he can't leave since the village might get hit by monsters while he's gone. Then, the priestess Letta gives Dolan a quick blessing. The older woman warns him to be careful since her fortune tellings got bad vibes, and Dolan takes her advice seriously. Ari shyly hands him some food, calling it a lunch lifesaver, and then he sets off from the village. On his way to the swamp, Dolan explains how the lizard men from the swamp used to trade with the Virum villagers, but they vanished one day. Since nobody else could figure it out, he volunteered to go investigate. Finally, he reaches the swamp. He checks the lake to figure out what's causing the disturbance and realizes the earth elemental's power in the swamp is growing stronger, while the water elemental's power is fading. Moving cautiously, remembering the old woman's warning, Dolan senses something nearby. He grabs his sword, thinking only strong monsters can survive in a swamp like this, and spots a beautiful lamia as he draws his weapon. He's surprised, thinking these creatures are pretty rare around here. The lamia asks if he's all alone, and when Dolan says he is, she's relieved. She wonders what to do next and remembers that her mother taught her to use charm in situations like this. She starts doing a seductive pole dance and tells Dolan she didn't come to fight. Right then, a monster shows up behind her, ready to attack. Dolan steps in, saving her, and they both hide under a large mushroom nearby. The lamia asks what that creature is, but Dolan quickly tells her to shut up and tuck her tail away. The monster eventually passes by without spotting them. Once it's gone, Dolan tells her it's safe now and again. She asks him what that thing was. Dolan breaks it down, telling her it's a mad earth elemental. He goes on to explain that lizard men used to live in this swamp, but they up and disappeared one day. This thing's probably why. He remembers hearing about a big earthquake recently and figures that's what messed up the elemental. He's bummed out because there's no way to turn it back to normal. Then he introduces himself as Dolan, and she says her name's Selena. He asks if she can use magic, and when he finds out she can, he suggests they team up to take down the mad elemental. Selena freaks out, telling him she's also an earth monster, so her attacks might not even work on it. But then she reveals she's got a unique racial spell that might do the trick. Hearing that, Dolan suggests he'll take the front while she backs him up, and she agrees, saying they'll ride together till death do them part. Dolan chuckles and reminds her that's something folks say when they're getting married, making Selena all flustered. After that, they lie low, waiting for the earth elemental to show up. Selena's feeling unsure about teaming up with a human she just met, but when Dolan gives the signal, they both go in. The monster attacks, then Dolan blocks it, protecting both of them. Selena starts chanting her racial magic, summoning a snake that wraps around the earth elemental, holding it down. Dolan seizes the moment, moving in close, but Selena struggles to keep the monster tied up, and it breaks free. By then, Dolan's already up close, dodging the monster's next move, and he leaps onto it, finishing it off by slicing it in half with his sword, which he powered up with draconic magic. This causes a little mudslide, leaving Selena covered in mud. Dolan checks on her, asking if she's good. Besides being muddy, she's fine. He thanks her for the help and says they should get her cleaned up because she's probably freezing. After grabbing the crystals the earth elemental dropped, the scene cuts to Dolan and Selena chilling in an old, run-down hut. Dolan's cooking up some food, and Selena's amused by how he's not scared of her at all. Dolan tells her she's different from the lamias he's met before. He explains that the ones he's met are usually more cautious around humans, and they tend to be more aggressive. Dolan asks Selena what she's doing around here, since there's no lamia villages nearby. She explains that when lamias turn 17, they must go out and start looking for husbands. Following that rule, she's on her journey to find a man, and Dolan thinks that's cool. Then she breaks it down: lamias are an all-female race, and they only give birth to girls. They rarely have boys, and even when they do, the boys are always the same race as their father. She also reveals that lamias came from a curse that hit a human woman, and that curse got passed down through generations. Because of it, they're part snake and their body fluids are poisonous. That's why they must find a husband with strong fingers who can handle poison. If not, their husbands end up dead when they try to have kids. Dolan realizes it must be tough for them to find partners, and she agrees. Selena shares that her mom met her dad while on a journey, just like she's doing now, and her dad was a human, just like Dolan. He thinks that's dope, but it kinda makes Selena feel like he's treating her like a kid. Dolan quickly tells her he's not, and he was actually thinking that she's really cute. This makes her blush, and then they start eating. Selena loves the food and gets all excited, asking what it's made of. Dolan's happy she likes it and tells her his mom taught him how to cook it. He shares that on cold nights, they'd gather around the pot to eat this meal. Selena picks up on how much he loves his family since he's always smiling when he talks about them. He admits he does and says he doesn't feel like a lonely dragon in a cave anymore. The next day, they shake hands to say goodbye, and Dolan remembers that Lamias are into life energy, so he gives her some of his. But it's too much for her, and she collapses. He quickly checks on her, thinking his dragon life energy might have been too strong. Dolan then tells her he's heading back to his village, and Selena says she'll be going south to keep searching for a husband. Dolan asks her to visit his village once she finds one, saying he will introduce her to his dragon finger. She agrees enthusiastically inside, and they both go their separate ways. Selena eventually bumps into two dudes on the road, and it's perfect timing because she's out here hunting for a husband. But before she can even introduce herself, they take one look at her lower half and lose it. Back in Dolan's village, Ari is learning how to make magical medicine with Dolan, but the Mageru warns them that messing up the measurements could be deadly, so they've got to be on point. The thing is, Dolan's no good at this kind of stuff. His magic herb goes up in smoke, and Dolan just can't get these complicated steps down. Ari tries to cheer him up, saying he's good at a ton of other things, and he's really attractive. Dolan appreciates that, but he admits following all these detailed instructions ain't his strong suit. Mageru checks Ari's magic herb, and it's perfect. She tells Ari she's done for the day and can head out if she wants. Ari would have preferred to stick around with Dolan, but since she's got some time, she figures she'll help her mom out. Dolan, though, is struggling with his clumsy hands. Back when he was a dragon, he didn't need medicine, so he never learned how to make it. Mageru doesn't know about his past life, but she believes that even if he's not good at magic medicine now, he's got enough talent to figure it out eventually. In the meantime, she's going to teach him how to turn his failed herb into an antidote. A little later, Dolan gets invited to have lunch with Ari's family. He didn't want to impose, but they insist. Before they eat, they say a prayer to Muriel, the supreme of nature. Turns out, Dolan used to know Muriel in his past life, though it's been ages since he's seen her. After lunch, Dolan's in a hurry to leave because he's running late for his training. On his way, he bumps into Miu, and she notices he's in a rush. Dolan tells her he's late for practice. Miu's a little bummed out because she wanted to give him some fresh milk, but it seems like he doesn't have time. In that split second of hesitation, Miu's already handed him a fresh mug. It's too good to pass up, so Dolan drinks it down and thanks her for the fresh milk, then hurries off to his training. A bit later, Dolan shows up at the hill where Albert is teaching some kids how to handle a spear. He apologizes for being late. Albert says everything's cool since he knows Dolan has been practicing magic with Mageru. The kids are all hyped to show Dolan what they've learned, but Dolan tells them to chill and show him after a break cause they've been grinding for a while now. Right then, Dolan picks up on something off in the woods feels like a monster's out there. He doesn't want to freak the kids out, so he brushes it off for now and keeps the practice going. Later that night, Dolan dips into the forest to check out that monster presence he sensed earlier. Weirdly, he feels like he knows this one, and the only person that comes to mind fitting that vibe is Selena. But there's no way she'd be out here. Dolan goes deeper into the woods, and to his shock, there she is, Selena camping out. She's just as surprised to see him, but in the moment, she trips and knocks over some hot water. Dolan's on it quick, swooping in to keep her from getting burned. Selena's thankful he saved her, but she's still standing there naked. She tells Dolan not to look, but Dolan's got his eyes wide open, sizing her up, and in his head, he's rating her a 9.5 out of 10 waifu. Selena's mortified, begging him to stop looking. She can't believe he's got no shame in a situation like this. But Dolan is not bothered and doesn't see the big deal. That earns him a slap from Selena, and he finally apologizes for not considering her feeling. Selena brushes it off, saying it's cool and she'd rather forget it happened. With that out of the way, Dolan asks what she's doing here, especially since she told him she was heading south to find her husband. Turns out, she tried, but every guy she met straight up bolted in fear. So, she came looking for Dolan, the only guy who didn't get scared of her. Dolan Loki was hoping to see her again, and he tells her he's down to help her find a husband. But then he pauses, thinks it over, and asks if she'd be cool with just staying here with him for a while. Selena's shocked and says she can't do that, thinking she'd scare the folks in the village. But Dolan assures her it's all good, there are plenty of demi-humans in the village already, and even Miu is loved by everyone, even Scar. The villagers might be a little sketchy about Selena at first, since she's new to the scene, but Dolan's sure they'll come around once they see she's got a good heart and a gentle way about her. Plus, Dolan's pretty hyped about having her around himself, though the way he says it makes it sound like he's trying to holler at her. Selena's all in on the idea of living with Dolan in a human village, but there's more to why she came looking for him. She was hoping he'd share some of that life energy again, cause it's the best she's ever tasted. And Dolan? He's more than happy to give her some whenever she wants. He reaches out and gives her a taste of his energy, and she's loving it. Dolan even tells her she can have more once they're living together. But for now, he's got a plan to ease her into village life. A few days later, the town guards are looking into some weird stuff happening around town third day in a row. Someone's been leaving them a pile of hunted food. They check the tracks, and it's looking like some kind of snake monster left the offerings. Only thing that fits the bill is a lamia. They hold a meeting to figure out what's next, cause they don't know if this creature's a threat or not. It hasn't hurt anyone and keeps leaving them gifts, so they've got no reason to come at it with violence. But Balin, hot-headed as ever, wants to roll up into the forest and take it down. The other villagers tell him to cool it. Even if they wanted to go after the lamia, those things are tough, and they'd need backup from the capital to stand a chance. Dolan overhears all this while he's working the fields, and it hits him how scared people are of lamia. But he's certain that would change if they met Selena and saw she's nothing to be afraid of. Right then, Majoru steps in, telling Balin he's blowing this out of proportion. She doesn't think the lamia is any danger to them. To be extra sure, she asks Ari to bring her the fortune-telling basket. After checking the signs, she announces that the lamia is actually a good omen for the village. Dolan hears that and gets hyped. Later that day, he rushes into the forest to tell Selena they can move ahead with the next part of the plan. The villagers ain't trying to kill Selena anymore, and those hunt offerings did the trick in flipping public opinion in her favor. But there's one more thing they gotta pull off to get everyone to fully accept her. The next day, Balin calls a meeting with the town soldiers, telling them they gotta stay sharp cause they're the only line of defense between the village and danger. He's pushing for an emergency training session to make sure everyone's in top form. Dolan gets called out too, along with all the heavy hitters of the garrison, and this is exactly what Dolan was banking on to complete his plan. Balin and Melita, as well as the priestess Letta, are all there. Now, Letta holds a lot of weight in the village cause she's got healing powers and can perform miracles. Plus, people see her as the messenger of the Supreme Muriel. If she decides Selena's bad news, that's it, Selena's chance at fitting in is done. So, everything's riding on Selena's acting skills now. She's gotta fake saving Dolan from some danger to win everyone over. Dolan's planning to set himself up by running into some monsters, giving Selena her shot to rescue him. She's hiding out in the bushes, waiting for his signal. Suddenly, a soldier comes barreling out of the woods, screaming that there's a monster nearby. But he ain't talking about Selena. It's an armored bear. Balin is shook. He can't believe an armored bear got this close to the edge of the forest. Balin orders his men not to attack, warning them the bear will take them out in one hit. He tells everyone to fall back, but his son trips and falls, and now the bear is about to slash him. Dolan rushes in to save the kid, but unless he taps into his dragon powers, there's no way the boy's making it out alive. Right at the last second, as Dolan's jumping in front of the boy, Selena comes flying in, takes the hit herself. She's tough enough that it doesn't kill her, but she's got a bad wound on her back. She uses her cursed eyes to command the bear to go back into the forest. Now, Balin and the others are more shook than ever. While Selena checks on the boy, Balin acts like he didn't see a thing. He orders Dolan and the boy to back off so he can kill Selena. Dolan sees the fear in the kid's eyes and tells him to get up and run back to his father. But Dolan ain't leaving Selena's side. He's standing his ground until they agree to treat her right. Melita steps in, telling Balin that it looked like the Lamia went out of her way to save them. But Balin's still stuck on the fact that she's a dangerous monster. He's not letting it slide. Dolan's still refusing to leave Selena's side, so Balin straight up asks her if she's the one who's been leaving offerings at the village. Selena tries to confirm, but ends up biting her tongue, which makes her all flustered. It's a cute moment, but Balin stays serious and asks why she'd do that, and why she'd save two humans out of the blue. Selena introduces herself properly, then bows her head, asking to be allowed to live in the village. She explains that she's on a journey following her people's tradition, but traveling alone turned out to be way lonelier than she expected. She wants to live among people. As for saving the boy, she didn't want his family to be heartbroken if he died, so she stepped in to stop that from happening. The crowd isn't scared of Selena anymore, but Balan's still unsure about trusting her. He turns to Letta for her take. To his shock, Letta starts receiving a message from the Supreme Muriel. She tells everyone that Muriel has spoken Selena isn't an evil monster, and they should live with her in peace. Letta walks over to Selena, telling her she's welcome to stay in the village. Selena is relieved to hear it, but her injuries finally catch up to her, and she passes out from blood loss, needing immediate medical help. Not long after, Selena's wounds are treated. and she's officially welcomed into the village as one of their own. They even built her a house, and she's all excited as she heads in to check it out. On the bed, she finds a little stuffed mushroom, and she absolutely loves it. She thanks everyone again for their kindness. Turns out, the mushroom cushion was Balin's idea, his way of apologizing for being so hostile towards her, especially after she saved his son's life. He's still feeling guilty about it. There's a lot they don't know about Lamia yet, but they're committed to making Selena's stay in the village as smooth and pleasant as possible. With everything settled, Dolan steps forward, extends his hand, and officially welcomes Selena as part of Varin village. Dolan watches Selena fitting in with the villagers and thinks she's gonna be alright now. His mind drifts back to Muriel's oracle, realizing he owes her big time. Then the scene shifts, and we see Dolan at night, stepping out of his body with his astral form, floating up into the sky. He soars higher, reaching the land of Supreme, where he takes on the shape of a dragon. He flies out to meet Muriel, and she's happy to see him. He tells her it's been a long time since they last crossed paths, and when he calls her a Supreme, she figures he must have died like a human. He tells her to stop messing with him, and she asks if he's here about the Lamia. Dolan nods, explaining there's no telling what would have gone down without her oracle. He thanks her, impressed that she knew he'd been reborn as a human. Muriel says she felt his soul through the prayers sent her way, and it sparkled with the joy of life. This caught her off guard because she remembers how he used to be tired of living. Dolan doesn't argue. He admits he had no regrets when the hero dealt the final blow to him, but being reborn changed things for him. Now he gets that folks on the surface live like every day might be their last, and to them, their lives might feel short, but they burn so bright. Muriel tells him he's been shining bright too, saying she can feel the joy in his heart and soul. She adds that it's the same with Selena. Dolan thanks her again for everything she's done. The next morning, the scene switches to Selena bursting into Dolan's house, waking him up. He tells her to knock before coming in. She says sorry, but he waves it off, and she notices he seems in a good mood. Dolan says he had a dream where he met an old friend who shared some kind words with him. He asks her what she's doing there so early, and she reminds him they promised to plant potatoes with Christina today. She jokes that Christina would be sad if she found out he forgot, and we see Christina overhearing the whole thing outside, though she doesn't look sad at all. Then the scene cuts to the city of Galoa, where a girl delivers a letter to the headmistress of the academy. The headmistress tells her to leave the mail in the usual spot, and one of her fairies picks up a letter to bring it over. The girl comes up and tells Olivia to check the letter right away, saying today's mail is special. Olivia, the headmistress, realizes it's from Christina, the academy's pride and joy. Using magic, she opens the letter and starts reading. Christina greets her and explains that she's been living in Varin village for a minute now. She talks about the rough weather and the dangers the village has to deal with. As she writes, we see Christina in action, going head-to-head with Melita, the vice captain of the guards. The crowd's hyped up, saying Melita hasn't gotten serious yet. Christina's thinking the same thing. Then, Melita decides to step it up, and Christina's all about it. They go at it hard, and Christina ends up winning. Afterward, she helps Melita up, and Melita admits Christina's sword skills are straight up terrifying. Christina compliments her right back, saying her swordsmanship is smooth, fast, and sharp. That makes Melita blush. Balin comes through, giving them props for an amazing fight, and Melita invites Christina to grab lunch with them. Christina's down, and in the letter, she tells Olivia how the villagers are good people and have welcomed her with open arms. Next, we jump to Christina at a tavern, having lunch with Melita. The village girls are serving her all kinds of dishes, unsure of what she might be into. Christina, smiling warmly, tells them she loves everything they make. Her smile has the girls blushing, and she asks if something's wrong. They reply, saying it's just that she's so beautiful. Then Balin shows up, inviting Christina for a drink, but Albert warns her not to, saying Balin's a heavy drinker, and once they start, they'll be going at it till morning. Balin tries to defend himself, saying it's not like that, but the others tell him to leave Christina out of his craziness. Christina wants to speak up, but they don't let her get a word in. Balin apologizes for bothering her and heads off with the guys for a drink. Later, we see Christina back at the village guest house that night, feeling a little out of place, like she's not fully part of the group. Christina hears voices outside and spots Balin and his crew heading to his place. Later that night, she's out practicing her sword moves when Selena and Dolan stumble upon her. Selena, noticing how serious Christina looks, asks if something's up, but Christina brushes it off, not saying much. Selena then invites her to her house, and the scene flips to the three of them inside. Selena gives Christina a tour and shows off her bed, talking about how comfy it is and how it gives her the sweetest dreams. Christina, curious, wonders if that's what a lamia bed should feel like. Selena encourages her to try it out, saying she'll have good dreams too. Christina hesitates, and Dolan jumps in, saying just because it works for lamias doesn't mean humans will find it all that special. Selena feels she might have come on too strong, so she apologizes. But Christina decides to give it a shot and climbs into the bed. She checks out the pillows and admits it's surprisingly comfy. Selena smiles and mentions it was all Balan's idea. Selena opens up, saying she was worried at first about whether the village would accept a lamia, but the more time she spends here, the more she's into it. She laughs and shares how Balan loves the milk his wife Miu makes, and how he and the other villagers compete to see who can drink the most in one go. Christina then connects the dots, realizing that's probably why everyone was heading to Balan's house earlier. Selena starts telling Christina about the villagers' quirks, and Dolan chimes in, saying each one has something unique about them. He reveals that even Melita, the tough soldier, has a sweet tooth. Selena then turns to Dolan, asking why he's just standing there instead of joining them on the bed. Dolan tries to decline, but both Selena and Christina insist, dragging him into the bed with them. The scene then jumps to the tavern, where Dolan and some other guys are sitting around, drinking Miu's milk and enjoying it. Dolan, feeling competitive, challenges them, asking if anyone wants to go up against him to see who can drink more of Miu's milk. Nobody's down for the challenge, but then Selena and Christina walk into the tavern, and Balan asks Christina what brought her there. Christina steps into the tavern, saying she's here to try some of that milk Balan's always bragging about. Miu brings out a fresh glass, and Christina downs it in one gulp. She's impressed, saying it's real good. Balan, watching her, wonders if she's a heavy drinker. Christina smirks and admits she can drink more than most. Balan then throws down a challenge for a milk drinking contest. Christina accepts without hesitation. The two of them go at it, chugging down mugs of milk back to back. The whole tavern is in shock, watching them keep going. But soon, Balan starts slowing down, getting full before Christina. The crowd can't believe it, seeing Balan on the verge of losing. He tries to keep up but finally collapses after one more glass. The crowd erupts, cheering for Christina, and she starts feeling even more connected to the villagers. After that, we see Christina still sipping on milk with Dolan and Selena. They ask if she's good to keep drinking, and she laughs, saying she's fine. Miu walks over, offering Christina a taste of her daughter Mir's first milk. She explains that she wanted her husband to be the first to try it, but he's too knocked out to handle any more. Christina agrees, takes a sip and says it's amazing, smooth and sweet. She even asks for another glass, and Mir, overjoyed, hugs her tight. As Olivia reads the letter, she notices Christina writing about how she's gotten closer to the villagers, thanks to Dolan and Selena. Christina says Varin village is starting to feel like home. The girl with Olivia is surprised to hear Christina has become friends with a lamia and thinks that's exactly what she'd expect from someone like Christina. Later, we see Olivia at a fancy party. Word about Christina befriending a lamia has spread all over, and it's the hot topic of conversation. Some folks are skeptical, wondering if humans and monsters can truly be friends. Olivia thinks to herself how fast news travels in this town. Karen, a high-ranking mage general, approaches Olivia and asks if she can share more about this lamia. Olivia's curious why someone like Karen would care about a lowly lamia, but Karen explains that she's concerned. Even though the lamia is by herself, they can't ignore the potential threat she poses. Karen starts off, saying humans ain't meant to live side by side with dangerous creatures like lamias, and brings up the recent disappearances that still haven't been solved. She's clear, they don't need more trouble on top of the mess they're already dealing with. Olivia agrees that the incidents are concerning, but reminds Karen that this particular lamia is supposed to be gentle and kind, with an oracle from Supreme Muriel backing that up, telling folks they should live in peace with her. But Karen isn't buying it completely. She says they still need to be ready for the worst, and demands that the lamia be summoned to Galoa right away. She asks whose territory Varin village falls under. That's when an old man steps up, introducing himself as Gouda, the commissioner of the northern frontier. He tells her Varin village is under his watch, and that they've got to make the first move. He says he'll send an envoy immediately. Meanwhile, back at the village, we see Selena, Dolan, and Christina working together, planting potatoes. Dolan notices Selena's put some care into planting, but the rows aren't exactly straight. On the other hand, Christina's straight up punching holes in the ground with her bare hands to plant hers, and she looks over at Dolan, asking how she's doing. He's left speechless. Then a guard shows up, telling them all to head to the village gates immediately. They rush over, and when they get there, the village chief pulls Christina aside while Dolan and Selena get surrounded by soldiers. Gouda, the old man from earlier, steps forward and introduces himself. He asks Dolan if he's the one who brought Selena, the Lamia, to the village. Dolan admits it's true. The priestess with Gouda speaks up, reminding everyone that Supreme Muriel's oracle has already proven that Selena isn't evil. Gouda doesn't deny the oracle's judgment, but makes it clear that he's the overseer of these lands, and it's his job to deal with any threats quickly and efficiently. Dolan's relieved that Gouda hasn't brought a squad to wipe out the Lamia, but he's still wondering what their goal is. Gouda explains that they're taking Selena to the government general to make sure she's truly safe to live among humans. Dolan's confused, asking why they need to do that if Gouda supposedly doesn't doubt the oracle. Gouda responds, saying no matter what the Supreme Oracle says, if Selena wants to stay in the village, they need official confirmation. Selena's gotta go through some formal procedures that the kingdom's laws require. Gouda hopes she can understand that, and she nods. Dolan, feeling responsible since he brought her into the village, asks if he can go with her. Gouda allows it, mentioning that it's better than her getting upset on the way and forcing them to take action. They head out from the village, and Christina, feeling uneasy, decides to talk to the headmistress for help. She knows the headmistress has pull with the government general. Using her wind magic, Christina speeds off toward Galoa. Later that night, Dolan and Selena are riding in a carriage. Dolan figures this must be her first long trip like this, so he checks in on her. Selena says she's fine but notices Dolan looks cold, so she offers to share her blanket with him. They both huddle under it. Dolan, trying to keep her spirits up, tells her not to worry, the procedures won't take long, and she's gonna be alright. He pulls her into a comforting hug, saying he's just doing what his mom used to do for him whenever he was nervous. He reassures her, saying everything's gonna work out, and Selena, moved by his kindness, gets a little teary-eyed. Meanwhile, Christina makes it to Olivia's office. She tells her she's got something to discuss about Varin village. Olivia instantly guesses it's about Selena and has her fairies bring some tea for Christina. Olivia explains that Selena isn't in danger of being killed, she's protected by Supreme Muriel's blessing. Plus, it wasn't Commissioner Gouda's idea to bring her in. It was Karen, the mage general. Christina's confused, asking why Karen would do this. Olivia explains that Karen sees Selena as a threat and thinks she might be involved in the recent disappearances of women. Christina's shocked, knowing Selena would never do something like that. Olivia agrees it's pretty much impossible for Selena to have done it while living in Varin village, but since Karen's raised suspicion, it could cause trouble. As Christina processes this, the scene cuts back to the carriage. It comes to a stop, and a soldier steps up, telling them that Commissioner Gouda has summoned Selena. The commissioner pulls them aside deep in the woods, keeps his voice low, and tells them something we can't catch. But whatever he says leaves them both stunned. Meanwhile, over at the academy, the headmistress lets Christina know that Karen's got free reign with her power as the mage for the government general. Christina fires back, asking if there's nothing they can do to stop her. Olivia warns her, saying if they act without thinking, they'll be seen as crossing the line, and there's something else on her mind too. At the same time, Gouda hands Dolan and Selena over to Karen, who greets them, apologizing for bringing them out here. She looks at Dolan, wondering who he is, and he explains he's from Varin village, tagging along to watch over Selena. Karen suggests they start with dinner and asks Gouda to go wrap up his report. Next, we see Selena and the others at the dining table, Selena's eyes lighting up at the feast in front of her. Karen says they can take this meal as her way of saying sorry for dragging them all the way here. Dolan says it's fine, they'd have come to Galola sooner or later if Selena plans to stay in Varin village. Karen then mentions she'll kick off the paperwork tomorrow. Selena's relieved, with soldiers suddenly showing up. She was bracing for the worst. Karen explains there was some fear Selena might be controlling the villagers with her cursed eyes, but she sees now there's nothing to worry about. Karen adds that she'd never harm a creature as pure and beautiful as Selena. Meanwhile, back at the academy, Gouda drops in on Olivia. Christina grills him, asking why he's here and what he did with Dolan and Selena. Gouda only says he needs to talk to Olivia. Back at the mansion, Karen asks if they're enjoying the food. Selena says it's fantastic, and Karen's glad. She notes she's seen many Lamias before, but Selena's beauty stands out, and with a disturbing look, Karen says it makes her want to eat her up. Moments later, Selena and Dolan pass out. Meanwhile, back at the academy, Gouda asks Olivia if he should fill Christina in on everything. Olivia says they don't have a choice, and Gouda then asks Christina if she's heard about the recent string of disappearing women cases. Christina says she has, and she knows none of those women turned up. She wonders what this has to do with Selena. Gouda explains there's a mage living out in Galoa who's over 300 years old. Christina thinks it might be the headmistress, but this makes Olivia snap. Gouda tells her it's a human mage, and humans don't last that long. Christina catches on it has to be forbidden magic. Gouda's pleased, saying she didn't get that top student spot for nothing. He explains people say this woman's using forbidden magic to hop into other people's bodies, and that's how she's stayed alive. This mage recently got her eye on a Lamia, and Christina realizes where he's going with this. Karen's the one he's talking about. Gouda says they need to get over there fast, since time's running out. Olivia's not into dragging a student into this mess, but she knows Christina isn't gonna listen to her. At the same time, we see Karen getting ready to dissect Christina, thinking about how Christina's smooth skin is soon going to be hers. Right before she plunges the scalpel into Christina, Dolan shouts from behind her. Karen wonders if she slipped up on the drug dose. Dolan catches sight of the blood magic circle on the floor, seeing how dry it is, and he figures she's been at this for a long while. He asks how many people she's killed, but Karen couldn't care less about that and just wonders how he broke free from the golem lizard's skin restraints. She hurls a knife at him, asking if he's even human. Dolan thinks folks like her never have the sense to listen. He asks her again how many people she's killed. Karen shrugs, saying she lost count after 100. Dolan asks why she did it. Karen replies it was all for research, saying everyone's got something beautiful, and she's collected those beautiful things for herself, claims that's what makes her beautiful. He asks if she made a pact with the devil, knowing this kind of magic is way out of line, and he gets his answer she did. Karen breaks down that she got her arms from an Arakan, her legs from some beast folk, and her skin straight from an elf. Dolan ain't with how she puts her own wants above other people's lives, but Karen figures he just ain't got it in him to recognize her beauty. She feels bad for him, thinking he's missing the big picture. Karen tells him her work's got the approval of some serious folks in high places, and this girl here passed her test fair and square, so she won't let any part of her go to waste. Then Selena wakes up, calling her out and saying she can't believe Karen did all that for something so shallow. But Karen's thinking her mix needs a boost. Selena snaps back, asking if Karen tricked those other folks she killed the same way she tricked her. But Karen brushes it off, saying they were already on a tough road. She mentions they should be grateful she gave their lives a higher purpose, and Selena remembers Gouda's warning about her being right. Then Dolan steps up, telling her scoundrels got a habit of running their mouth too much. He pulls out an earpiece and tells her it's a magic gadget that records sound. Gouda's been listening the whole time and knows everything she's done. Right then Olivia, Christina, and Gouda bust through the wall with some soldiers, and Christina's relieved Dolan and Selena are safe. She says she was shocked when she heard they'd taken on the role of bait, and Gouda orders the soldiers to arrest Karen. As the soldiers close in, Olivia says Karen probably planned to pin the kidnappings on Selena, claiming she had to kill her because she fought back, then used her remains for whatever suited her. Christina's disgusted that Karen would go to murder just to stay alive and looking good. Karen scoffs, saying they wouldn't understand her struggle because they were born with beauty. She says it took real work for her to get there. Turns out, Karen was pretty plain growing up. She was obsessed with beauty but didn't have it, so she snatched it from whoever did. She pieced together everything she found beautiful, built herself up, and soon found people who admired what she'd done. Her work got bigger, and she kept chasing beauty wherever she could find it. Back in the present, Karen's mad as hell at Olivia for looking down on all her hard work. She says she's about to show them the results of 300 years of research. Then, she morphs into a twisted monster far from that beautiful look she was frontin' before and makes a grab for Selena. But Dolan's quick, dodging and pulling Selena away. Christina's baffled, asking what's up with Karen. Dolan explains it's a body fusion. She's combined parts from different species using magic. He figures she must have made a devil's deal for it. Karen's yelling for everyone to see how beautiful she is, but honestly, even Bigfoot's easier on the eyes. She declares she's gonna add Selena to her collection of beauty and goes at the soldiers, but Selena freezes her with those cursed eyes. Olivia shouts for the soldiers to get clear, but Karen snaps free from Selena's spell. Karen tries to attack Selena, but Christina jumps in, slicing off Karen's fingers. Karen's fingers regrow instantly, and she turns to strike back at Christina, who cuts through her attack, making Karen furious. She fires a beam at Christina, and Gouda's shocked by Karen's powerful magic. Olivia's thinking they've got to act fast, but she's stuck without her fairies down here underground. Meanwhile, Dolan's drawing a magic circle, and he tells Christina it's his turn now. Olivia notices the circle, realizing he's about to go in with some high-level magic, even a barrier spell. Dolan asks Karen if she's satisfied now, and she proudly says she's finally achieved beauty, which was all she wanted. Dolan tells her real beauty won't ever be hers with blood on her hands, then traps her in a barrier and unleashes his superior magic on her. His attack finally takes her down, and Selena's relieved to see Dolen's alright. The scene cuts to Selena hitting the books hard, complaining her head's about to burst. Dolen lets her take a break, saying she needs to learn to put her thoughts into writing, and he's looking forward to reading her work. Selena feels bad, thinking he's trapped in this mansion cause of her cursed eyes. But Dolen doesn't mind. Then, Christina shows up, asking if Selena's made any progress. Selena's complaining her head's spinning, but Dolen tells her she's come a long way. She figures Dolen must be one good teacher. Then, she mentions she's impressed Christina can study every single day like this. That's when Olivia and Gouda show up at the mansion. Gouda apologizes for not coming by sooner and for getting them wrapped up in all this mess. But they don't mind since it helped them nab a criminal. Dolen says he was pretty shocked when Gouda suggested they act as bait to investigate the case. He explains they were able to stop themselves from getting poisoned by that drug only because of the antidote Mageru gave him. Then Gouda lets them know the government general's feeling embarrassed about one of his own mages causing all that trouble. He hands Selena some documents, explaining one's her registration, and the other's her permit for Galoa. With this, she's set to stay in Varin village with no issues. Selena's thrilled, and Gouda tells her they always knew she had a good heart and apologizes for making her wait. Then Olivia steps in, saying someone wants to meet them, and we cut to them meeting Danzel, who's Mageru's son. He introduces himself to Selena and mentions his mom wrote about her in her letters. He also says the headmistress has told him all about what they've done and offers to show them around town. After shopping, Dolen thanks Gouda for everything, and Gouda does the same. Dolen then tells Danzel to come back and visit the village sometime. Before he leaves, Danzel asks Dolen if he'd ever consider joining the academy. Danzel brings up that he and the headmistress talked earlier about how Dolen's magic powers are something else. He says it'd be a real waste to just let that talent go to waste. Dolen appreciates the invite but says he's got too much going on in the village to leave right now. Danzel tells him to take his time and think it over. Then Olivia leans in, whispering about his dragon soul. She mentions he'll need to level up his knowledge if he wants to use his powers to help others, and the academy would be the place for that. Danzel adds that if Dolen wants to protect the village he loves, leaving might actually be the way to make that happen. Dolen agrees, but for now, he hops in the carriage with Christina and Selena. On the ride back, Christina asks if he's really considering what Olivia said. He admits he's curious about the academy, but he feels like he still has more to do back home. Christina figures he must really love his village, and she gets it, it's a beautiful spot. Meanwhile, we cut to an elf spotting an army of monsters in the forest, and he's freaked out, wondering what's going down. The army is rolling in through a teleportation gate, and on the other side, some gnarly-looking creatures are waiting. An elf scout was first to run into these monsters while he was out in the area, but he didn't stand a chance and got taken out on the spot. His partner heard the ruckus and raced over to check on him, but by the time he got there, his friend was already gone, and he ended up being the monster's next victim. A bit later, the rest of the elf scouts show up to check out the area, and their leader's horrified to find his crew wiped out. Among the bodies, he spots one elf who's somehow still alive, though he's barely breathing and hanging on by a thread. The leader asks him what did this, and just before he fades out, the injured elf manages to say it was a whole swarm of monsters. Back in Varin village, Christina and Dolen are helping some of the younger kids learn swordsmanship. Selena's watching Dolen train with the kids, and while she's enjoying the fun, she can't help but feel a little sad thinking about how he might leave the village for the academy one day. Her thoughts are interrupted though when some kids start tugging on her tail, so she jumps up and starts chasing them around. Dolen's happy seeing Selena bond with the kids and hopes they'll keep rolling like this for a long time. But all of a sudden, Christina comes over and says she's got a favor to ask. Christina tells Dolen she wants to head into the forest because she's heard there's some vicious wildlife around, and she's itching to test herself against them. Dolen says he knows the forest well, but it's not somewhere you wander without a good reason. Christina counters that she's got one Albert's been griping about not having enough space for his pigs to graze, and if they take care of the monsters in the forest, he'd be able to gather enough corn for the pigs. Getting to fight is just her little bonus. Dolen can't really argue with that, so he agrees to take Christina, along with Belen, Selena, and a few soldiers for backup. As they head into the forest, Selena asks why the guards are geared up in so much armor for a quick trip. Dolen explains it's a safety move since there's been a lot of powerful monsters spotted lately. They don't want to risk getting caught off guard. But with Dolen, Christina, and Selena along, he figures there probably isn't much that could give them trouble. Once they get deep enough into the forest, Albert's pigs start grazing, so Balin heads off with the soldiers to check out the area. As they're moving deeper in, Balin warns his guys to stay sharp. You never know what might jump out at you in these woods. One of the pigs wanders off into the bushes, and without thinking twice, one of the guards bolts after it. He's quick to regret splitting from the crew because he finds himself staring down a massive bladed tiger that looks set to make him the next meal. Right after the pig, the tiger's ready to tear him up, but at the last second, Balin jumps in and smashes it with his hammer, saving the soldier. After the tiger's taken care of, Balin lays into the guard, yelling at him for running off alone and not watching his back. Right while he's scolding the guard angrily, Balin himself isn't paying attention and ends up getting attacked by one of those ant monsters from earlier. Christina, Selena, and Dolan hear the fight breaking out, so they rush over and find Balin on the ground, with that big ant creature standing over him. The ant monster goes for them next, but before it can strike, Dolan blasts it with an energy shot that knocks it out for a second. Christina asks Dolan what in the world that thing is, since she's never seen anything like it. Dolan tells her it's not exactly a monster, it's a demon. It's a low-ranking scout demon, but even so, it's got serious strength and agility, so they have to stay sharp if they want to take it down. Dolan tells her he'll keep the demon busy, and while he does, he wants Christina to move in and finish it off. He makes the first move, hitting it with another energy blast, and as the demon reels, Christina rushes forward and cuts it down. Even though they beat it, Christina's left wondering how something like that even got here. Dolan tells her to keep it quiet until they can figure out more about what's going on. Later that day, they head back to the village, and everyone's on edge, waiting to hear about Balin and the soldiers. The village chief lets them know they were roughed up pretty bad, but there's no life-threatening injuries, and they'll be okay after some time to heal up. Dolan and Christina let everyone know that Balin and the crew got jumped by a bladed tiger and some mystery beast. They didn't spill the details on the second monster, but the village chief gets that this is some seriously bad news. Balin is Varen's top fighter, so if he got taken down that easy, it means hardly anybody else would stand a chance. Not long after, Majoru rolls into the town hall and lets everyone know Balin woke up and is gonna be alright, though the wound from that unknown beast was no joke. Something's definitely up in that forest, so Dolan stands up and says he's gonna check it out, but Majoru shuts him down quick, telling him he's not going anywhere. After seeing what happened to Balin, she's worried Dolan might end up getting himself killed too. She suggests that they lock down the forest and just hope that the mysterious creature stays away from the village. Dolan gets why she's being so careful, but he pushes back, saying if they don't look into it now, they're gonna be stuck living in fear. Majoru finally gives in but says Dolan can only go if he takes someone with him. It's too risky going solo. Christina steps up, ready to go with Dolan, but the village chief isn't having it. He won't be able to explain to the academy if Christina gets hurt while he's supposed to be looking out for her. Christina gets it, but Dolan still needs a partner. So Selena steps up and volunteers. She's got cursed eyes and can use magic, so she's confident she can be a big help to Dolan. Dolan's cool with it, so he agrees to let Selena tag along. But before they start making plans, the village chief adds one more rule. If things get too dangerous, they need to bounce and save themselves because their lives come first. Dolan and Selena agree, and early the next morning, they set off for the forest. It's been a minute since Dolan and Selena got to hang out alone, and Selena's starting to feel a little nervous. But she's dead set on proving she's got what it takes, so she pushes the feelings aside. Just as they're about to step into the forest, Dolan feels something or someone nearby, and he stops in his tracks. So, it turned out it was just Christina. Even though she wasn't supposed to tag along on this mission, she ended up taking a random stroll in the woods for reasons that had nothing to do with the expedition. Dolan asked her what brought her out here when she promised to stay clear of the forest, just like the village chief wanted. Christina knew she gave her word, but her loyalty to the village of Varen ran deep. If anything was threatening the village, she wanted to be there, ready to step up and protect the people she cared about. Selena didn't see a big deal in letting Christina tag along since she knew Christina could hold her own in a fight. Plus, Selena got why Christina wanted to do her part for the village. And seeing as Christina was already here, might as well make her part of the crew. Christina thanked them both for being cool about it, and the trio got busy clearing the forest of monsters. After they took down the spider creatures, Christina stumbled upon another beast that looked wild and ready to fight, so she geared up to attack. But Selena stopped her, saying this one was actually pretty chill. Selena tossed the monster some food, and Dolan was already getting friendly with its kids. With no danger in sight, Selena set up a picnic for everyone. Christina was surprised at how relaxed Selena was with a huge monster right next to them. But Selena reminded her she was part monster too. so there wasn't much to be scared of. She nudged Christina to feed one of the babies so she could see how harmless they really were. Christina handed an apple to one of the little ones, and it happily started chomping on it. That's when Christina saw that even monsters could be kind of adorable. Selena pointed out that they were probably just out there for food, meaning something had pushed them from their usual spots. If things were that serious, even strong monsters getting affected, it was more reason for them to figure out what was going on. Christina took a bite of the sandwich Dolan made for her, and it blew her mind how good it was. Dolan explained that his mom baked the bread and he'd cured the meat himself. Selena teased that Christina looked beautiful even while eating, and Dolan admitted that Christina had a certain charm no matter what she was doing. Christina gets all flustered when Dolan drops that compliment, and when Selena finds out Dolan thinks Christina's got charm, she turns to Christina and asks for tips on how to get that same vibe. Selena figures it might help her lock down a husband. Christina's caught off guard, not knowing what to say. She doesn't have some secret charm move or anything. Dolan steps in and tells Selena that even if Christina did have some hidden trick, she wouldn't need it because Selena's already good as she is. That's when Selena's mind goes into overdrive. If Dolan thinks she's already charming, that must mean he's low-key into her, maybe even picturing her as his future wife. While Selena's trying to keep it together, they suddenly hear rustling in the bushes. They snap into battle mode, only to find out it's just a tiny fairy. The fairy's all frantic, telling them they need to bounce because danger's coming in hot. Right on cue, a bunch of those demons show up again. Christina and Dolan don't waste a second and dive into the fight. But this time there's way more of them, so they split up to handle the swarm. Christina holds it down up front, while Dolan's at the back blocking a demon that tries to sneak up on them. He's ready for one, but it turns out two demons are coming at him. After taking down the first one, his sword gets stuck in its head, and he can't pull it out fast enough for the second attack. Dolan knows he's gotta pull out the big guns now, even though he prefers staying in his human form. He taps into his dragon side just enough to crush the second demon. Once the threat's over, he shifts his arm back to normal and says, "These fights are way easier when I let my dragon out." While Dolan's caught up dealing with those demons, Christina's just about to get swarmed, but at the last second, Selena steps in with her magic and takes out the last demon. Once the dust settles and everyone's breathing easy, they check on the fairy to see if she's hurt. The fairy introduces herself as Mira and thanks the crew for saving her from those demon soldiers. Mira explains how those demons just started chasing her out of nowhere, and if that's what they've been doing in the forest, it makes sense why the other monsters got pushed out of their usual spots. But here's the catch: those demons were just scouts. That means there's a big-time demon coming sooner or later, and when it does, things could go south real quick. Christina asks Mira if she's got any info that could help them out, saying they want to back her up. Mira's grateful for the offer, but says she can't share anything with outsiders. Right then, Dolan picks up on a group closing in, but their vibe feels different from the demons. Christina can't spot who's out there, but she's ready to draw her sword just in case it's go time. Before she can, Dolan stops her, saying these folks aren't giving off any hostile energy, so he doesn't want to make the first move. He puts his weapon down, and Christina follows his lead. Once the elves are sure Dolan and the crew aren't a threat, they step out of the shadows. But the elves still aren't feeling too friendly. They tell Mira to get away from Dolan, keeping their guard up around the humans. Mira steps up to Geo, the elf leader, and tells him these humans saved her. Geo's already clued in. Selena tells Dolan they've crossed into the elven forest, but Dolan waves it off, saying it's fine since they ain't here to start no trouble. He tells Selena and Mira to get behind him, just in case, while Geo moves toward them. Geo starts by giving props for helping Mira out, but then he makes it clear the forest of Enti is elf land, and he wants to know what they're doing here. Dolan lays it out, saying strange monsters have been creeping up around their village, and they figured the forest might hold some answers. He admits he probably should have asked first before rolling in. Geo gets it. He understands why Dolan came, considering the trouble, but he warns Dolan to leave quick, mentioning the forest is in a dangerous state right now. Dolan catches on that Geo's talking about the demon troops, and he knows they've been showing up in his own village too. Geo breaks it down, explaining that they're in the middle of a battle against the demon army. He tries to leave, having bigger things to handle, but Christina steps in, asking how they're handling it. She pushes, wanting to know if they have enough forces and if they've let the kingdom know, even getting a bit close to Geo as she checks if his village is safe. Dolan and Selena pull Christina back, but she's not letting up, saying even one of these demons is trouble, and they're up against a whole army. She offers to lend them a hand. Seeing her serious, the elves ease up, putting their weapons down, and Christina apologizes for her outburst. Selena reassures her, knowing she's just worried about the elves, and Geo's sister Fio figures these humans might actually be alright. Mira chimes in, saying these folks are solid and handled the demon soldiers no sweat. The elves nod, seeing Christina's skill with a blade, and think they just might be able to trust these humans. Dolan realizes Christina's courage and blunt nature are helping them here, but he's worried. Hearing the elves talk about the demon army makes him wonder if the Zerts came here on purpose. There's a portal linking the demonic realm to the Forest of Enti. Dolan's dead set on closing it before even stronger demons start flooding through. He knows that if he has to, he'll reveal his dragon soul to pull it off, even if that means everyone's gonna see his true form. He turns to Geo and lays out a plan, telling him this is way beyond what the elves can handle alone. He knows working together might be against elven rules, but he's hoping they'll make an exception this time. Geo's not sure about it, but his sister Fio speaks up. She gets why he's hesitating as their leader, but she says keeping the village safe is more important right now. Breaking a few rules doesn't mean much if they all get to see tomorrow. The other elves back her up, and Geo agrees to let them help. Geo warns Dolan that this could put their lives on the line, but Dolan doesn't even flinch. They're about to seal the deal with a handshake when they sense a dark energy surge from deeper in the forest. Dolan knows what that means. The portal's fully open. Then, 3 powerful demons step out. Feeling their presence, Geo urges everyone to get back to the village fast. Dolan casts a wind spell to boost their speed, and they're off, racing to reach the village in time. Meanwhile, back at the portal, Refrasia, one of the demons, takes a look around and says the surface isn't so bad. She tells the others that they're here as the vanguard to clear a path for their ruler to claim something called anti-Yggdrasil. Jiren notices their buddy George hasn't shown up yet, but Refrasia figures he's dragging because his mana is off the charts. Georude, another demon, suggests they play a little game while they wait. Whoever finds the elves first gets to have some fun with them. Jiren shrugs it off, not interested in weaklings, but Georude's pumped and heads off to cause some chaos. Refrasia takes a deep breath, saying she loves the scent of flowers here. It makes her feel like showing them some affection. Then the scene shifts to the elven village, where the Zerts are launching an attack. The elves hold their ground, taking them down with arrows, but the Zerts just keep coming, one wave after another. They spot Georude standing behind the Zerts, and he wastes no time letting them know he's one of the 4 demonic knights. His attack, that's the spark kicking off a full-blown war. Georude charges at the village, smashing their defensive wall with a single blow. Meanwhile, Dolan and the crew are racing toward the village, pushing their speed to the max. Geo gets word from the spirits fiends are hitting the village from the north. He figures these are the high-level demons Dolan warned about, and Dolan says they need to move fast. Geo suggests they sneak in from the southwest side to reinforce the defenses, but they run into a pack of Zerts and decide to take them down. Back at the village, Georude is all fired up, enjoying the chaos he's causing. He tries to take out an elf, but suddenly, vines wrap around him, holding him back. He's confused, noticing black roses blooming on the vines. Someone calls for the elf to get out of there, while Georude scoffs, saying vines won't stop him, but he can't break free. He realizes the roses are draining his mana to keep blooming. Turns out, this is the work of a spirit named Diodora. Elsewhere, Geo and the crew are going toe-to-toe with the Zerts, and Dolan angrily casts an energy rain spell, wiping out a whole group in one go. Selena uses her icy gaze to freeze some, and Christina slices through them with her sword skills. Geo clears away trees with his magic, opening up a path for everyone, urging Dolan and the others to hurry up. Dolan, though, thinks they need to buy more time. He hands some pure magic crystals to the others, telling them to cast some big spells with them. Selena remembers picking up these crystals at the swamp, and she and Christina use them to launch powerful earth and wind spells, clearing out a ton of demons. Not wanting to be outdone, Dolan unleashes Megumin's signature explosion magic, triggering a massive blast. Geo's impressed with their strength and thinks he could depend on them even more after that display. Dolan throws him a grin, saying they put on that show to give him a taste of what they're capable of. Back at the village, Diodora faces Georude, asking him if he even knows the sins he's racked up. She calls him out for all the life he's crushed underfoot: plants, insects, animals, every creature that called this forest home. She tells him he's committed more sins than she can count, saying he doesn't see any of that as sin to him. Weakness is the only crime worth noting. Those creatures died because they were too weak to survive. Diodora cuts him off, refusing to hear another word. She tells him he's got his own sin of weakness, showing up in this realm with nothing to back it up. She's ready to finish him, but suddenly, Raphrasia steps in, using her powers to shrivel Diodora's vines away. Raphrasia introduces herself with a sly grin and says it's time to start their game. Meanwhile, Dolan and the others finally reach the village, awed by the sight of a whole village built into the trees. They don't have time to stop and admire it though, so they press on. Back to the fight, Georude scoffs at Raphrasia, saying he didn't need her help and could have handled Diodora on his own. Raphrasia sees through him and laughs, telling him that getting into messes is basically his job. Georude snaps back, saying his real duty is to take down their enemies first, but Raphrasia teases him, pointing out he's the only one who believes that. Then Raphrasia asks Diodora if he's ready to catch a beating, and since it looks like they're teaming up, Diodora decides to call on the spirits of the flowers for backup. But they don't answer him. Just then, flowers start raining down from above, and Raphrasia explains that on her way here, she ran into some flower spirits and played with them a bit. She mentions with a smirk that those spirits withered in agony, and she goes on, describing how each one suffered until its last breath. Diodora's eyes blaze with fury hearing this, realizing the spirits were calling to her for help. Raphrasia mocks her, saying she cursed them all to death. Diodora then attacks with her vines, raging at Raphrasia for hurting her family. But Raphrasia just grins, saying Diodora's anger makes no sense to her. She's saying all those flowers are constantly fighting each other to get the good stuff from the soil, and that she ought to be happy there's less competition now. She's saying they should be grateful for what she did, even if they're still mad at her. Diodora's done with this. She's set on making them pay. She strikes at Raphrasia with her vines again, but Raphrasia blocks her, throwing up a barrier that makes Diodora's vines shrivel. Raphrasia just smirks, saying she's a floral spirit too, but her flower ain't from some paradise. She tells Diodora she's the spirit of a flower from the demon realm, one that feeds on blood and life. It's called Raflora. Raphrasia says all lives are meant to feed her and help her bloom, making Diodora's vines wither again. She adds that Diodora shouldn't expect any other outcome, pulling the same move over and over. Diodora lunges at her again, but once more, her vines die off until one manages to graze Raphrasia's face before it withers. Diodora taunts her, saying she ought to remember that the prettier the rose, the sharper its thorns. Seeing the scratch on her face, Raphrasia's had enough. She snaps back that Diodora's gonna pay for that, but Diodora just coolly says she's already made up her mind to finish them all. At this point, Georude's tired of watching and jumps into the fray, even though Raphrasia tells him Diodora's hers to handle. Diodora blocks him with her vines, but Georude rips through them, saying her tricks won't work on him without the element of surprise. At the same time, Raphrasia launches Diodora back, and Diodora realizes her mana's been sapped too. Then both Raphrasia and Georude close in to deliver the final blow. And Diodora thinks she can't die here, she's gotta get revenge for her beloved floral spirits. Right then, Dolan shows up, firing down energy like rain on the demons, breaking up the attack, ready to kick some demons' ass. Raphrasia and Georude don't even know who Dolan is. But when Dolan turns his back to check on Diodora, Georude takes it personally. He tries to sneak in an attack while Dolan isn't looking. Just when Georude's spear is about to land, Christina steps and blocks the hit and leaves Georude wide open. Dolan doesn't waste a second and strikes at his neck. Thing is, Dolan's hit barely scratches Georude, and it leaves him vulnerable. Raphrasia sees her chance to grab him, but before she can move, an arrow smacks her right in the face. These arrows ain't too powerful, but this is an elven village. As long as they got a clear shot, they're hitting their mark every time. Raphrasia is straight up furious that some humans would even dare to touch her. Then out of nowhere, the ground starts shaking, and over in the forest, a huge surge of dark energy spills out of a portal. It's official, the last demon general has arrived. Now that George is here, Georude and Raphrasia are feeling themselves, convinced they're untouchable. But Georude still wants to handle these humans solo, so he starts charging his mana ready to finish them off. He's not the only one powering up though. Selena rolls up, takes one look at the chaos, and she's fuming. Without hesitation, she whips out her ultimate move, the evil snake spell, and locks Georude in place. Raphrasia tries to step in and stop Selena, but the second she turns her back on Dolan, he hits her with an explosion spell that sends her flying. Before she can even recover, Diodora jumps in with a vine and slams her back down to the ground. While all this is happening, Selena's keeping Georude pinned, waiting for Dolan to back her up. When he gets there, he starts casting a flame javelin to end Georude for good. But right before Dolan can finish, another demon shows up and forces him to fire the spell early to block an attack. Seconds later, the new demon lands right in front of Selena. He doesn't waste any time, telling her he wants a formal duel like she even has a choice to say no. Selena freezes up, caught off guard and terrified. She's staring straight at Jiren, and he's not playing around. She slips up for a moment and loses her focus on the spell, and that's all Georude needs to break free. He turns to Jiren, telling him to fall back because he wants Selena for himself. With a quick move, he shifts his arm into a spear and lunges to stab her. Right before it lands, Christina steps in and deflects the attack again. That's twice now she's blocked Georude's so-called unstoppable strikes, and he's starting to take an interest in her. He tells her she must be some kind of superhuman to pull this off. Christina has no clue what he's talking about, but it doesn't matter, she's here to beat him plain and simple. She powers up her sword and charges at him. Georude tries to counter, but she's too fast and gets in close, landing a stab right in his neck. It's a serious wound, but for a demon like Georude, it's not enough to take him out. Christina knows she's got to keep pressing until he's down for good. Meanwhile, Selena's locked in with Jiren throwing everything she has at him. The problem is, nothing's landing. No matter what she tries, Jiren comes out untouched. She even uses her evil snake spell to bind him, but Jiren laughs it off. He straight up tells her she doesn't have what it takes to kill him and lets her try to choke him out for fun. Doesn't matter how hard she pushes, he's still standing there untouched and unbothered. Eventually, he gets bored. With a quick move, he breaks free of the spell and swings his axe to end Selena right there. But Dolan shows up at the last second, blocking the axe with his sword. Then, knowing it's faster to go barehanded, Dolan switches gears and throws a punch to Jiren's gut. To everyone's shock, the hit is so strong it sends Jiren flying 40 feet back. And Dolan, he wasn't even trying that hard. In that moment, Dolan knows this fight is his to win. But things aren't over yet. From out of nowhere, George comes crashing down from the sky. His aura hits like a ton of bricks, intense and heavy. To top it off, he looks cooler than any demon they've faced so far. Elsewhere, the elf soldiers have nearly wiped out the demon scouts. Now the only ones left standing are the demon generals. But the elves know they're outmatched. No amount of arrows or speed is going to touch someone with an aura as terrifying as George's. Back on the battlefield, George steps in and apologizes to Jiren for interrupting his fight. Jiren brushes it off, saying it doesn't bother him, mostly because he's not about to start arguing with George. George has barely been there a few seconds, but Dolan already knows this guy is built different from the rest of the demons. Turns out, George feels the same way about Dolan. He notices right off the bat that Dolan isn't afraid of demons, no matter how strong they are. In fact, Dolan's been taking them down left and right, and George respects that. He tells Dolan he's next on his list and makes it clear he's going to enjoy every second of this fight. Dolan doesn't waste time and makes the first move. George tries to crush him with a heavy overhand swing, but Dolan blocks it cleanly. That gets George hyped, so he pulls out 2 more swords and comes at Dolan hard. Dolan taps into some of his dragon power to deflect the attack, leaving George stunned by what he just saw. George doesn't say it, but Dolan can tell the guy is starting to piece things together about his dragon energy. Dolan ain't got time to stress about it, though he keeps the pressure on. After trading blows, Dolan steps back and fires a point-blank explosion spell at George. When the dust clears, George is still standing looking untouched. Turns out, George had to throw everything he had, swords, shields, the whole nine, to block that spell. Even though Dolan hasn't done much damage, everybody watching is amazed. He's holding his own against someone as powerful as George, including George himself. George didn't think he'd ever run into a human who could match his strength like this, and he's loving the challenge. But during the fight, Dolan figures out something big. George isn't a demon at all. Dolan's convinced George is some kind of fallen angel, and he's right, but no normal human could have figured that out. Meanwhile, George is making his own guesses about Dolan. He figures Dolan has to be some ancient being, but Dolan refuses to confirm anything. One thing is clear though: if George decides to fight for real, there's no way Dolan can beat him in his human form. But Dolan knows there's a catch. If he goes full dragon mode, the entire elf village is going to get wiped out in the crossfire. Now he's got to figure out how to handle George without destroying everything around him. George charges at Dolan with everything he's got, forcing Dolan to focus fully on defense to avoid getting skewered. After dodging and parrying for a while, Dolan spots an opening and counters with a strike to George's chest. But the hit barely scratches him, not nearly enough to slow George down. George starts building up mana for a special move, and Dolan knows it's gonna be big. He wants to interrupt, but before he can, Reborn and Georude come at him from the side, trying to catch him slipping. Selena and Christina see what's happening and rush to back Dolan up, but Jiren blocks their path. He smirks and tells them they'll have to get through him first. Meanwhile, Reborn and Georude launch their attacks at Dolan, fully expecting to take him out. But Dolan's not about to let some sneak attack end his human life. He taps into a bit of his dragon power and swats both Refrasia and Georude out of the air like they're nothing. With those two dealt with, George nods at Dolan and apologizes for his comrade's interruption. Now that it's back to a one-on-one, George gets serious. He charges up one of his ultimate moves and sends it flying straight at Dolan. Selena panics, yelling for Dolan to watch out. But Dolan doesn't even flinch. He cracks a smile, taps into a sliver of his true strength, and slices the attack clean in half, redirecting it harmlessly into the sky. Dolan's barely breaking a sweat, but George is watching closely. As much fun as he's having, George is a man of principle. He can see that Dolan isn't fighting at full strength. His attention's split because he's worried about his friends getting hurt, and he's holding back to avoid destroying everything around him. Taking that into account, George decides this fight needs to wait. He plunges one of his swords into the ground, the sound echoing across the battlefield, and calls out to everyone. Finding a worthy opponent like Dolan has put him in a good mood, so he announces that he's postponing the battle for a couple of days. He wants their next clash to be uninterrupted, with nothing holding either of them back. Then, addressing everyone in the forest, George gives them a choice. He tells them they must have realized by now that they have no chance of surviving against the 4 demon generals. Instead of fighting to their deaths, he offers them an alternative: join forces with him. He gives them 3 days to decide, letting them know that when he comes back, he's rolling in with an entire army. Then George calls out to Jiren, Georude, and Refrasia, ordering them to pull out from the fight right then and there. The trio isn't happy about it. They wanted to finish off their prey, but they follow George's orders anyway. As they leave the village, they're already swearing that next time, they'll make everyone pay. George turns back to remind Dolan and the others those 3 days are a mercy, and when the time is up, nothing will stop him from finishing his fight with Dolan. Dolan nods and promises he won't hold back when the time comes. With that, George and the other demon generals take off, flying back to their base camp. As soon as they're gone, Selena rushes over to Dolan and hugs him tight, almost crying because she thought he might die fighting George. Dolan calms her down, telling her he was never in real danger. In fact, he doesn't even have a scratch on him. What's got him more concerned is how Selena and Christina are holding up. Selena looks up, relieved, and says she's fine. Christina walks over a moment later, also saying she's okay. She's got a ton of questions for Dolan, but decides to save them for later since he's clearly got a lot on his mind already. Besides, Geo and the rest of the elves are waiting to speak with Dolan. Geo leads Dolan and the crew toward the village chief's place. As they walk through the town, the elves silently watch them, making Selena feel uneasy. It's hard to blame them, though, after all. A big part of their village was wiped out by demons just minutes ago. The sadness in the air is thick. Eventually, they reach the chief's residence. The chief comes out to greet them, saying he's glad to finally meet the folks Geo told him about. First off, he thanks Dolan on behalf of the village for saving Mira earlier. The chief introduces himself as Dio and points to the two beside him, Vlake the Wolfman and Ollie's the Arakan. They're the chiefs of other tribes in the forest, and word's already spread about Dolan's insane power. But they're not just interested in his strength. To learn more about the kind of person Dolan is, they've called in someone who knows him well, Headmistress Olivia. They ask Olivia what she's doing here, and she breaks it down for them. She grew up in this village, born and raised, even though she left a long time ago to see the outside world. The moment she found out the place was under attack, she didn't hesitate. She came running back to help out. Since the three already know Olivia, Dio skips the formalities and gets straight to business, laying out his plan. He's not about to sit around for the 3 days George suggested. By tomorrow at midday, he's rallying all the villagers who can still fight and leading them into the forest to destroy the demonic gate. That gate's the reason the demons are hanging around. It's feeding them energy. Take it out and they'll get kicked out of this world. Once the gate's gone, the forest can start healing itself from all the dark energy that's taken over. Dolan gets what Dio's saying and is ready to throw down with them, but Dio pushes back. He says this is elf village business, and he doesn't want outsiders getting mixed up in it. Vlake steps in and calls him out, asking if Dio thinks Dolan's underestimating them or if he's saying the elf village can't handle this solo. Normally Vlake would have taken that as an insult, but after seeing Dolan in action during the earlier fight, he knows Dolan's strength is on another level. He points out that Dolan's help could make the difference. Sure, the village has rules about not dragging outsiders into their mess, but what good are those rules if the whole place gets wiped out? In fact, given the situation, they should be straight up asking Dolan for help, because he's their best shot at making it through this. Ollie's is on Vlake's side and tells Dolan, Christina, and Selena that she'd be grateful for their help. Olivia backs them up, telling Dio that these three are the village's best hope right now. She already sent word to the capital asking for reinforcements, but they're a long way off and the village is on its own until they show up. Hearing all this, Dio gets it. He agrees to let Dolan's crew join the fight. Dolan can see that Dio genuinely wants to protect the village, so he's all in ready to do whatever it takes to make sure they pull through. Over by the demonic gate, Georude is losing it, throwing a fit and wiping out a bunch of demon soldiers because he couldn't take down Christina. Refrasia's on the same vibe, snapping at everything because Diodora managed to land a hit on her. Jiren steps in, trying to calm them down, reminding them those soldiers don't grow on trees, but George waves it off. He says it's cool to let them blow off some steam. After all, they're probably hyped up and itching for a rematch. Jiren gets it because he's got his own score to settle with Selena, and George is all fired up about Dolan. George is pumped. He knows the thrill of a real fight is waiting for him with Dolan. That's saying a lot because George doesn't get excited unless he's going up against someone seriously strong like a top-tier demon or even a celestial. At first, George wasn't sure about Dolan, but after seeing a taste of his mana, the pieces clicked. He knows who Dolan really is. Back in the day, when George was still an angel rolling with Ard's army, they went up against these gnarly creatures created by a fallen supreme. The battle wasn't going their way and the angels were sweating, thinking they might lose. But then Muriel called in an old ally, and when Dolan stepped onto that battlefield, George was stunned. This wasn't just anyone, this was the ancient dragon, a legend who wrecked an entire demon invasion all on his own. Even now, his name makes demons across the realm shake in their boots. George doesn't get how that dragon is walking around as a human now, but he's certain their fight will be the best one he's ever had. Later that night, Dolan heads out to the village's flower garden looking for Diodora. When he finds her, he says there's something he needs to handle before tomorrow's battle. Diodora tries to brush him off, saying she's not in the mood to talk. But before she even realizes it, Dolan's already standing right in front of her. He notices she's still hurt from yesterday's fight, so he asks her to let him take a look at her wounds. Wounds from someone like Refrasia don't heal easy, and Diodora proves it. When she stops trying to hide it, Dolan sees a huge, nasty, rotting hole in her stomach. He's stunned she's even standing, let alone walking around with something like that. But he figures he can fix it using a bit of his life energy. Dolan places his hand over the wound, and as he starts healing, the flesh begins to mend itself until it's completely back to normal. Diodora's floored. She can't believe Dolan healed something so serious like it was nothing. She straight up asks if he's really human. Dolan doesn't deny he might not be your everyday guy, but he tells her he'd appreciate it if she kept treating him like one, not wanting to dig into Dolan's business more than she has to. Diodora turns back to the flower garden, gazing into the distance. Dolan asks if she's mourning someone, and Diodora explains that Refrasia slaughtered a bunch of beautiful flower spirits during her rampage. She can't let that slide, and is determined to get revenge no matter what. Dolan asks if she's willing to let him help her take down Refrasia. Diodora doesn't answer right away, but he can tell she's grateful. She thanks him for coming to talk with her like this. Afterward, Dolan heads back to the village guest house where the crew's waiting for him. Theo and Mira show up too, bringing some floral tea for everyone to enjoy. They've also got a meal ready for Dolan. Selena grabs it for him, and he thanks her for the kind gesture. Dolan digs in, and the moment he takes a bite, he's blown away by how comforting and delicious it is. He makes sure to compliment Theo on her cooking skills. Christina's loving her meal too, so much that she practically scarfs it all down in one go. Selena can't wrap her head around how Christina can eat like that and not worry about gaining weight. Christina admits she does eat a lot, but all the exercise she puts in burns off the extra calories. Even so, Selena can't figure out how Christina stays so thick and slim at the same time, and she's low-key jealous of her figure. Theo doesn't think Selena's got any reason to be jealous, especially since she's the one out here flatter than a board while talking all this mess about curves. Meanwhile, Dolan's been staring at the girls the whole time he's eating, his eyes glued to their chests. Once they catch him, they call him out and tell him to quit it. Dolan apologizes, saying they were talking about it so seriously he had to check out the subject material. Theo decides to let it slide for now, but it's late, and they've got an early start tomorrow. She cuts the conversation short, and everyone heads off to bed. Selena offers to take care of Dolan's dishes, so he hands her the tray. But as he does, he notices her hands are shaking, something's clearly weighing on her. Later that night, Dolan wakes up and realizes Selena's not in her hammock. He gets up to find her and eventually spots her outside on the terrace staring at the moon. When she notices him, she asks if he's out there because he can't sleep either. Dolan's about to tell her he came looking for her, but then he sees her hands are still trembling. Instead, he says he's too worried to sleep as well, trying to put her at ease. Hearing that Selena feels a little better, knowing she's not the only one stressed about tomorrow, she invites Dolan to sit with her, saying this spot has become her new favorite place in the whole village. At first, Dolan doesn't get what she means, but the moment he steps outside, the view hits him. From where they're sitting, he can see the entire village lit up under the moonlight, and it's stunning. For the first time, he really feels how special this place is. He sits down beside her and starts apologizing. He knows he dragged her into this chaos, even though she's not built for battle. Selena shakes her head and says she's not scared of fighting, she's fighting to protect the people she cares about. But what's been eating at her is that during the last battle, she had the chance to take out Jiren for good, but she didn't finish the job. She explains that all she had to do was cast her spell and end him right there, but she couldn't do it. Even after everything Jiren did to the elves, she froze, and now it's messing with her. Selena's stressing hard, scared that her hesitation to kill might put more lives at risk. She gets that the demons are straight-up villains with no hope of redemption, but the idea of taking a life still messes with her head. She figures that makes her a failure as a Lamia. Dolan doesn't deny she's different from the usual Lamia vibe, most of them are way more cutthroat in situations like this. But he points out that if she wasn't so kind and soft-hearted, he'd never have thought about bringing her to his village, and they'd never have gotten close the way they have. He tells her she doesn't need to change who she is. But since he can tell she's still uneasy about tomorrow, he pulls out something he's been saving for her, a bracelet. The gem on it isn't your average magic crystal. It's packing way more power than usual. Dolan explains it's something he made himself, though the method's a secret. He's confident it'll come in handy during the fight. He reassures her again, telling her she's got nothing to be scared of. Selena thanks him for being so thoughtful, and for a moment, the two of them sit there caught in the quiet, just staring at each other. That's when Christina shows up, throwing a blanket over them. She says she woke up and heard them talking, and she wasn't about to let them catch a cold. Plus, she thinks it's totally unfair they're out here soaking in the view without her. Selena laughs and invites her to join. Christina slides under the blanket, and the three of them sit together, taking in the stunning view of the elf village. As they gaze out at the beautiful scenery, it hits them all this is what they're fighting to protect. That's when Selena stands up, fire in her eyes, and declares she's done doubting herself. She's made her choice. She'll do whatever it takes to keep the village safe, and if that means she's got to take a life, she won't flinch this time. Christina's all fired up too and yells out that she's ready to wipe out every bit of evil right alongside Selena. With that weight off her chest, Selena's practically out cold, so Dolan scoops her up, takes her back to bed, and tucks her in. He's relieved she's finally in a better headspace, and Christina feels the same way. Before they call it a night, though, Christina brings up something that's been bugging her. During her fight with Georude, he kept calling her a superhuman. She asks Dolan if he knows what that's about. Dolan's reaction says he knows more than he's letting on, but he plays dumb, telling her he's never heard of anything like that. Christina doesn't push it and heads off to bed. The next morning, the whole village is buzzing with energy. Every warrior's ready to avenge their fallen comrades and end the demon threat once and for all. The attack kicks off without delay. As planned, the groups split up to target the main demonic gate and its 3 auxiliary gates. The elves, beaskin, and arachnid warriors are set to handle the auxiliary gates, while Dolan, Selena, and Christina take charge of the main one. On their way, the demons make their move. Geo and his crew of elves break off to keep the enemy occupied, giving Dolan's group a clear shot to the gate. Out of nowhere, Selena steps out of the carriage and says she's going to help Geo, and the others hold off the demons. Dolan and Christina aren't thrilled about letting her go alone, but Selena insists she's got this. She's steady, determined, and full of confidence that she can handle the fight this time. Dolan and Christina respect her choice and keep moving toward their target while Selena turns back, ready to kick some demon buns. The demi-humans step up and come face to face with Georude, who's fired up to see them since he was tired of just waiting around. Meanwhile, George is ready to square up with Dolan, and Refrasia is sitting back waiting for someone to challenge her too. She's annoyed that Jiren got the best auxiliary gate to hold down, but when Diodora shows up to face her, her mood flips. She can't believe Diodora came alone, calling her out for underestimating her. Diodora, though, isn't fazed and is set on handling Refrasia one-on-one. At the same time, Jiren is taking on the elves, and they don't stand a chance. They try hitting him with ranged attacks, but he swats them away like it's nothing. They keep pushing, aiming for his joints. Before they can fire, Selena steps in, telling them to fall back, and drops an earth spell on Jiren, burying him under rocks. Selena's just as shocked as everyone else, realizing her spell hit way harder than usual. Theo asks her why she's there since she was supposed to be at the main gate. Selena explains she left that to Christina and Dolan, and the crew's relieved she showed up since they were getting nowhere without her. Jiren bursts out of the rubble, hyped now that the fight's heating up. Selena doesn't back down, throwing his comment right back at him, and the two square off. Meanwhile, Dolan and Christina are still riding in the carriage. Christina's worried about Selena holding her own. She knows those demons are tough and figures Selena will have Geo's squad to back her up, but she still can't stop worrying. Dolan's also thinking the fight's going to be rough, but he remembers Selena's determination to make a change. He decides to trust her and support her in spirit. Christina's still uneasy and tries to turn back to help, but Dolan stops her. He reminds her he gave Selena a special magic crystal that'll help her in the battle. He tells Christina Selena's strong and fully capable of handling herself. Christina calms down for a second, but quickly admits she's still worried. The driver then chimes in, letting them know they're almost at the next gate. Georude's out here wrecking the demi-humans he's up against, but he's not even close to satisfied. They went down way too easy. A few of them are still hanging on, putting up a fight, but they don't last long before he's about to finish them off. That's when Selena rolls up driving a carriage straight at him. Turns out, she saw what was going down from a distance and told the driver and Dolan to get off the carriage. Her plan was to crash it right into Georude. She does exactly that, ramming the carriage into him, then jumping out and attacking with her sword. It barely does anything to him, though it's enough to make him roll over. But that's it. Selena tells him she's his opponent now, then checks on the others, asking if they're okay. They're stunned by her saying they're fine. She tells them to grab the survivors and get out of there. Georude, meanwhile, realizes he's up against someone special, a superhuman. He says he'd rather fight Dolan, but since Dolan's not around, he'll settle for her. Selena, in a hurry to wrap this up, wastes no time awakening her sword and angrily goes at him. They clash hard, her sword against his defense. She lands a hit on his head, but he heals up almost instantly. Georude's impressed, saying she's not bad for a superhuman, but Selena's confused. She has no clue what he's talking about. Meanwhile, Dolan's sprinting through the forest, trying to get to his destination. He figures Selena's got herself covered, but he's stressing about the others. Knowing time's not on his side, he taps into his dragon powers and speeds up, tearing through the trees. Elsewhere, Diodora's taking out demon grunts like it's nothing, but she's tired of the warm-up. She wonders when Raffrasia's gonna step up and fight her for real. Raffrasia, reading the vibe, decides now's the time. She dismisses her demon soldiers and puts up a barrier around them so no one can interfere. Raffrasia unleashes her signature mist, but Diodora counters by kicking up a strong wind to blow it away. Raffrasia's impressed clearly. Diodora picked up a thing or two since their last fight. But Raffrasia isn't done. She's got more tricks up her sleeve. She starts hurling life energy she drained from other flower spirits straight at Diodora. Raffrasia's attack shakes Diodora a little, but she doesn't let up. She keeps dodging and tries blocking the next wave of hits, but her vines aren't strong enough to hold back the power, so she still takes some damage. Raffrasia throws a smug comment, asking Diodora how it feels to get hit with the life energy of her own people, and she keeps up her relentless assault. This time Diodora manages to block it, and even gets her vines close enough to strike back. But just like before, her vines wither the moment they get near Raffrasia. Diodora catches on that Raffrasia's mist is sucking up life energy. Raffrasia, grinning, lets her in on the truth she can absorb life energy and use it at the same time. They go at it, with Raffrasia throwing more energy blasts and Diodora holding her ground. Diodora's had enough of the back and forth though. She wraps herself in black roses and unleashes a dangerous spell. The air around her fills with a mist that looks just like Raffrasia's, and she tells Raffrasia she'd been holding this power back. But for someone as filthy as Raffrasia, she's done keeping it sealed. Raffrasia's shocked to see Diodora has the same ability, and she makes it a twisted game. She challenges Diodora to see who can drain the other's life energy faster. The two of them throw their black mist at each other, locking into a deadly clash. At first, Raffrasia starts to take the upper hand, draining Diodora's life energy and bragging about how she's all talk. She mocks Diodora, saying she'll make her wither away. Raffrasia taunts her, asking how it feels to have her life force drained. But Diodora stays calm, acting like this is part of her plan all along. Diodora then drops a bombshell. She points out that Raffrasia has now absorbed a huge amount of her life energy, which should be coursing through her body. Raffrasia's cocky, saying she's loving the taste of Diodora's energy, especially the bitterness of her hatred. Diodora smirks, saying she's glad Raffrasia's enjoying it because it's the last thing she'll ever taste. Raffrasia laughs it off, thinking Diodora's bluffing, but she's dead wrong. Suddenly, pain shoots through Raffrasia's body. A black rose blooms right on her face, and before she knows it, her body's wrapped in vines, roses and thorns, locking her down completely. Rephrasia's overconfidence becomes her downfall, leaving her helpless against Diodora's deadly spell. Rephrasio, looking confused, asks why roses are blooming from inside her. Diodora just calmly tells her this fight was over before it even started. Rephrasio doesn't get what she means, twisting in pain, and Diodora explains that yesterday when she hit her with a vine, she secretly planted tiny black rose inside seeds her ugly face. Diodora is sure Rephrasio never saw this coming and attack from the inside. Rephrasio begs her not to drain her life away, but Diodora doesn't let up. She crushes her completely. As Rephrasio falls, the barrier around them fades, and demon soldiers close in. But Diodora's barely standing now. She couldn't even handle a regular monster, let alone demons. One demon lunges at her, but before it can strike, an energy rain spell wipes out all the demons in the area. Diodora looks up and spots Dolan flying through the sky. Then she collapses. Meanwhile, Selena is somewhere else, bruised and battered, trying to make sense of what's going on. She remembers casting a spell and putting up an earth shield to block an attack, but something clearly went wrong. She glances around and realizes she's impaled on a tree. Back with Dolan, he's working on a magic circle to heal Diodora. After that, he obliterates the demon gate with a spell called Celestial Javelin. When Diodora wakes up, she notices the magic circle and asks him what it's for. Dolan explains it's a defense and healing spell. Nothing can hurt her while she's in it, and it'll restore her strength. She thanks him and, seeing his wings, realizes he's not human. Dolan insists he is human, well, sort of. He reveals he was a dragon in his past life and still carries his dragon soul. Diodora, stunned, admits she's never met a real dragon before, let alone one reincarnated. She tries to get up, but she can't. Dolan tells her to rest. She's in no shape to be moving around. She protests, wanting to help the others, but Dolan makes it clear she's not ready. As he turns to leave, she insists on tagging along. Dolan shakes his head, saying she'll just slow him down. She jokes that he can carry her instead. Dolan brushes her off, saying it'd be easier to handle George solo. She calls him cold, but she lets it go. Before he leaves, Diodora tells him to be careful. Dolan replies that he will, but she adds she's not worried about him, she's worried about everyone else. Diodora is stressing that his powers might wreck the forest, so he promises to be careful. After that, Dolan takes off, leaving the elves behind to keep up their weak attempts to fight Jiren. The elves are doing everything they can to keep him at a distance. Meanwhile, Fio and Geo manage to get Selena down and check out her injury. Selena's confused about why Fio's so worried about her, but then she freaks out when she notices a tree branch stuck in her tail. Fio tries to calm her down, and her brother carefully pulls the branch out, planning to heal her. But before he can do anything, the bracelet Dolan gave her starts glowing, and suddenly her wound is completely healed. They're all stunned by what just happened. Fio and Geo tell Selena to get out of the forest while they stay behind to fight that thing, hoping at least she can make it out of this mess alive. Selena's not feeling it, though she doesn't want to leave. Fio pleads with her, telling her again to run before it's too late. Meanwhile, Christina is still going at it with Georude. She's cutting him up left and right, but he heals as fast as she strikes. She's thinking, how many more hits is it going to take this guy down? Georude, on the other hand, is impressed, admitting that her skills are no joke, not that he expected anything less from a superhuman. Christina has no clue what he's talking about, so she demands an explanation. Georude chuckles and wonders if humans don't even know about superhumans. He explains they're rare freaks of nature born among humans, way stronger, smarter, and better at magic than regular people. Humans can't handle having someone like that around, so they push them away. Christina cuts him off, snapping that he doesn't know a thing about humans. Georude smirks like he hit a nerve and keeps going, saying superhumans are their sworn enemies. Even though they're just humans, they've taken down demons and even defeated Fallen Supreme. Then he drops the big one. Not even the strongest ancient dragon stood a chance against a superhuman. He adds that the hero who killed that dragon was also a superhuman. At the same time, Dolan faces off against George, who's been waiting for him. Georude, still fighting Christina, says he didn't expect to go up against one of the superhumans. That's when it clicks for Christina. She's one of those people they sing about in song. She thanks Georude for helping her figure that out. She tells him her power was made to wipe out demons like him. With that, she taps into her superhuman strength and starts cutting off Georude's limbs one by one. Georude realizes what true hero power looks like and wonders what it must have been like for the ancient dragon to be taken down by someone like her. Christina finishes the job beheading him. She's sure that dragon felt betrayed. thinking the hero was one of its own. Meanwhile, George is talking to Dolan, telling him he's been wanting to fight him ever since he saw him fight alongside his old master Arts during that war. Dolan sees through him immediately. This guy's just a battle junkie who ended up in the demon realm. He's shocked that George still wants to go up against him after everything. But George is not backing down. He tells Dolan fighting's the only thing he lives for, and now that Dolan's human, he's sure he can land a hit. George knows Dolan can't go all out in this place, so he offers to take him to the demon realm, where the real fight can happen. Both of them step into the demonic gate. Dolan and George drop into the demon realm, but we flip back to Selena's fight. She's caught up in her own head battling herself. She doesn't want to hurt her enemy, but if she doesn't step up, her friends are gonna pay the price. Theo's shouting for her to run, and honestly, every part of Selena's screaming to bounce too. But she knows she can't leave her crew behind. Theo and the others are throwing everything they got to buy her time. Theo locks Jiren down with some plant-binding magic, while the rest aim for his legs and arms trying to pin him. Now, Jiren is peeping their hustle, and impressed with the teamwork. But power, that's where they're lacking. The truth is, Jiren's been toying with them, not even breaking a sweat. But now he's bored playing nice. He flips the switch and busts out these nasty spiked tendrils from his stomach, showing off how he can tweak his body however he wants. He's all smug, talking about how creative he can get while slicing them up. Through the trees, Selena hears her friend's screams. It's tearing her apart inside. She's in bad shape, barely able to stand, but she can't let them suffer alone. Her eyes lock on the bracelet Dolan gave her. She grips it tight, praying for the strength to do what needs doing. Meanwhile, Jiren's got Geo on the ropes, barely clinging to life. Jiren's tired of dragging it out and is ready to end him. But just before the final blow, Selena rolls up. She pulls an earth chain move out of nowhere and grabs Jiren. Geo and Theo are shook seeing her there. They were all set to sacrifice themselves to give her a shot at freedom. Selena ain't having it. She says plain and simple, she's not leaving. She's in this fight with them. Jiren's hyped now, seeing Selena's back in action. He goes straight at her with those tendrils, but Selena is done playing. She calls on her snake spirit, and it chomps those tendrils clean off. Then she follows it up with a giant titan fist that smashes Jiren to the ground. As he's down, Selena turns to Theo and Geo and tells them to bounce. She doesn't want them caught up in the chaos she's about to unleash. While they retreat, Jiren gets back up. He's all in now, loving that Selena's finally showing she means business. But Selena skips the trash talk and calls in an airstrike on his sorry self. It doesn't hit Jiren too hard. But that's cool, it was just a distraction anyway, giving Selena time to prep her main move. She starts chanting the spell to activate her cursed eyes. And as soon as she locks eyes with Jiren, he's frozen in place. Wasting no time, Selena follows up with her snake spirits at full power. That's when Jiren starts to realize he's in some real trouble now. Jiren shakes off the curse and starts fighting back against the snakes. But with the extra power Selena got from Dolan's gem, those snakes are hitting differently so much so that they remind Jiren of Dolan himself. In the next moment, he gets chomped clean in half. With that, Selena finally takes Jiren down and keeps her friends safe, just like she planned. Meanwhile, over at Dolan's end, he and George have picked their spot to throw down. George had claimed this was his turf, but honestly, the place looks run down. When Dolan calls him out on it, George shrugs it off, saying he's just a mercenary for the underworld's royal family. He doesn't exactly have cash for a cheeseburger with extra mushrooms. But that doesn't change the fight. Here, they can swing their swords without holding back. George is hyped to face the legendary primordial dragon at full strength. He draws his sword, fired up for the fight of his life. Dolan's ready to deliver, but warns George once he's done with him, George will be erased from existence. George makes the first move, charging in, but when Dolan counters, George feels the heat and backs off just in time. Switching tactics, George goes for a long-range heaven and earth slash, but when the attack comes flying, Dolan shuts it down like it's nothing. Back in the overworld, Selena and the elves are headed to the first gate to meet up with Dolan. On the way, they run into Christina, who's relieved everyone's okay. Soon after, Diodora joins the group. Turns out, Diodora was supposed to roll with Geo's squad, but decided to do her own thing. She had some unfinished business with someone she needed revenge on. That aside, Geo asks where Dolan is. Christina fills them in. Dolan's at the main demon gate battling George. With that, they all pick up the pace, ready to back him up however they can. At the main gate, Olivia pulls up and finds the place dead quiet. No sign of anyone around, so she figures Dolan must have gone through the gate to throw down with George. She starts checking the area and spots a magic circle on the ground with a gem sitting in the middle. Before she can figure it out, the village leaders roll up. They let her know they've handled all the demon soldiers in the area and ask where George is so they can back up the fight. Olivia tells them George went inside the gate with Dolan to settle things one-on-one. The moment Ollie's hears this, she's thinking hard. She figures this might be the best chance they'll ever get to end this whole nightmare. If they seal the gate right now, George won't have a way back to their world. But there's a catch. Dolan will be trapped on the other side too. Blake is floored that Ollie's would even suggest abandoning Dolan after everything he's done for them. But Ollie's, cold as it sounds, argues that sacrificing one person might be the only way to keep the whole forest safe. Meanwhile, in the demon realm, George is giving it everything he's got against Dolan. But Dolan's handling it like it's nothing. Every attack George throws gets parried, and then Dolan lands a gut punch so brutal it shatters George's mask into pieces. George gets sent flying into a pile of rocks, but he's not about to give up. He drags himself up, determined to show Dolan the full extent of his sword skills. Outside the gate, the rest of the crew shows up, and when they hear the village leaders talking about sealing the gate with Dolan still inside, they flip out. They can't believe the elders are even thinking about leaving Dolan behind. The elders stand their ground, saying their job is to protect the forest. With the gate open, there's no telling what stronger demon might come through next. And if Dolan somehow loses, it'd be game over for all of them. Selena shouts that Dolan never loses. Ollie's wants to believe that, but she's not willing to bet everything on faith alone. Even so, Selena stands firm. If Dolan had the guts to take George on solo, then he must have a plan to win. If Dolan was scared of dying, he could have waited for backup from the kingdom. But no, he chose to step up and fight with everything on the line. That's not a man you betray. Diodora backs Selena up, telling the elders straight up that if they're gonna act cowardly and ditch their friend just to avoid demons, they'll lose all the pride they once had as forest folk. With everyone standing behind Dolan, the elders finally fold. They scrap their plan and decide to put it all on Dolan taking George down. Meanwhile, George still thinks he's got a shot. He busts out his 4000 slash move, figuring at least one slash has to land. But Dolan dodges every single one like it's nothing. Frustrated, George switches it up and fires an energy wave at him. Dolan could have dodged it easy, but he's done playing defense. Instead, he counters with his own energy blast, slamming George back hard. The hit's so strong it catches the attention of some woman lurking in the demon realm. Dolan doesn't care, he's locked in on George. When George tries sneaking up from behind, Dolan's patience runs out. He starts cutting George's arms off one by one, and then finishes the fight with a clean slice straight through, cutting George in half. Dolan's slice is so precise, there's a delay before George even realizes he's done for. In those final moments, George gets to speak. Dolan might not respect George as a person, but he gives him props for his fighting spirit, coming from the Dragon Supreme, that hits George hard, so hard it brings him to tears. Then Dolan lays it out. This is the price George pays for all the lives he took invading the forest. It's time for him to vanish. George takes it like a warrior, accepting his fate with no regrets. In his eyes, this was the best way to go out. With George gone, Dolan's battle is finally over. But there's no time to celebrate. His power blast didn't just take George out. It caught the attention of the Demon Queen, and just like George, she's itching for a rematch with the Dragon Supreme after all these years. Back in the overworld, everyone's watching the portal, holding their breath to see what comes through. When Dolan walks out alone unharmed, they know he won. George is done and Dolan's still standing. Selena's thrilled to see Dolan's fine, and she rushes out to welcome him back. Afterward, Dolan steps in to help everyone take down the main gate for good. With that, the demon problem is finally over. The village throws a massive celebration for their savior, and the elders humbly apologize to Dolan for almost leaving him stranded in the demon realm. Dolan doesn't sweat it, he wasn't even expecting a party. But Geo says it's only right since they're bidding farewell to a true friend. They all wish he could stick around in the village, but they get it, Dolan's got his own home to return to. Out of nowhere, Theo shows up proud of herself for convincing both Selena and Christina to rock the outfits she picked out. She asks Dolan what he thinks, and while Dolan's usually straight to the point, he's really hyped to try that blueberry caramel drink 2-in-1. Some elf girls grab Christina to join them for a dance, leaving Selena standing off to the side. Theo nudges Dolan toward her and tells him to go ask her to dance. Dolan takes the hint, walks over and asks Selena if she'd like to join him on the dance floor. Selena's all smiles as she agrees. While they're dancing, she opens up to Dolan about her fight with Jiren. She admits that at first, she was tempted to run away. Even with the big bold declaration she made, she didn't feel strong enough to win. But then she clutched the magic stone Dolan had given her, and it felt like he was there standing behind her, protecting her. She thanks him for all he's done for her. As the night winds down, the party wraps up, and Selena ends up passed out drunk on Dolan's lap. Dolan's had a good time, but he's ready to call it a night. Just as he's about to head off, he hears someone singing a beautiful tune. Dolan is curious. He follows the voice and finds Christina, who's the one singing. The song is about a hero slaying an allegedly evil white dragon. When Christina notices Dolan standing there, the moment shifts. She apologizes for bothering him with her singing, but Dolan waves it off. He tells her there's no need to apologize, he actually loved her voice. Still, he's curious about the song and asks where she learned it. Christina explains that it's been passed down in her family for generations. When Dolan presses her, asking if there's more to the song, maybe something about what happened to the hero after slaying the dragon, Christina gets a little uneasy. She tells him there isn't a second verse and leaves it at that. The next day, everyone's getting ready to head back home. Olivia takes a moment to thank them again for their help and brings up the offer for Dolan to study at the academy. She's convinced he'd gain a lot from it. Dolan's still undecided about the academy, so he asks Olivia for more time to think it over. He's interested but hasn't made up his mind yet. Diodora walks up to Dolan next, handing him a sack of black rose seeds, a gift for his potion making. But then she leans in and gives him something even more unexpected, a kiss on the lips. Selena's watching, and she's beyond embarrassed. Upset that she didn't get to make the first move, she yells, demanding to know what Diodora thinks she's doing. Diodora doesn't back down, saying it's only natural to thank the man who saved her with a kiss. Eventually, Dolan and the group make it back to Varin village. It feels amazing to be home. Dolan decides to visit his family and catch them up on everything that's gone down. But just as he opens the door, out of nowhere, he gets stabbed straight through the chest from behind by a strange creature. However, the next morning, Dolan wakes up like nothing happened and carries on with his usual activities. And then he starts mentioning that in this world, all dragons trace their lineage back to one immensely ancient dragon, a being so old it predates the gods themselves. This dragon had been around since the dawn of time, long before the divine pantheon ever came into existence. And as the universe's oldest creature, it bore witness to incredible events. Gods ruling the earth, Zeus partying like a rock star, and Kratos burning Olympus to ashes. After watching all of this unfold, the ancient dragon came to a harsh realization. It was utterly alone. Consumed by envy for the gods and their lively existence, it chose to divide itself. Its tail, wings, limbs, fangs, and head became separate, powerful dragons. And as for its heart and soul, those transformed into an exceptionally mighty dragon that would reign supreme over all others. That dragon was none other than Dolan in a past life, a fact he conveniently omits from his story. Then, when he finishes telling his tale, the kids eagerly dash off to continue their games. But then Diodora intriguedly asks if he's the village storyteller or something. Dolan laughs, explaining that he used to share these tales with his little brother. But over time, all the village kids started showing up to listen. Theo chimes in, saying she adores his stories because it feels like he's actually seen the dragons himself. With story time over, the group strolls through the bustling village, and we see that it's clear that Varin has gained some fame lately, and Dolan attributes the fame and trade to the elves' visits ever since the demon invasion was thwarted. But it's expected because Dolan and his companions were the key reason the elf village survived the ordeal, so naturally the elves would want to visit their savior's home and express their gratitude. Just then, an elf girl dashes up to Dolan, asking to shake his hand, while another starts fawning over Christina. However, it's hardly the best time for autographs, so Diodora politely tells the girls to come back later since Dolan and Christina are busy. The girls understand and leave, but as soon as they're gone, Diodora seizes the opportunity to poke fun at Christina for blushing under all the attention. But then Selena steps in to defend Christina and tries to get Diodora to stop. But this only makes Diodora redirect her teasing towards Selena instead, and to everyone's amusement, Selena doesn't seem to mind, and she might even enjoy it. A little later, the group sits down on a couple of benches to enjoy lunch. While they're eating, Selena casually asks Dolan if he'd like to go hunting with her and Balin later. Dolan doesn't mind tagging along, but he points out that since Selena will be there, she'll probably handle everything, leaving him with little to do. Selena concedes he has a point, but still wants to spend time with him, so she makes up an excuse, claiming he owes her because he drank her own Mew's delicious milk. Backed into a corner, Dolan reluctantly agrees, but mentally notes to be more cautious about accepting gifts from Selena in the future. That evening, the hunting party sets out, and Selena is determined to impress Dolan. So when they approach a bear's den, she takes the initiative, using her snake spell to lure the bear out of hiding. And once the creature emerges, Balin and his group waste no time and brutally kill it. Dolan is horrified, shouting at Balin to stop, arguing that the bear was just minding its own business and didn't deserve to be killed. But Balin dismisses him with a sharp retort, declaring that all monsters are dangerous and cannot be allowed to live. Dolan is deeply unsettled by Balin's words, but the real blow comes when Selena echoes the same sentiment, so that shit shakes him to the core, leaving him confused and troubled that something about this damn situation just feels wrong. After returning home, Dolan heads to his fields as normal, but to his shock, all his crops have withered away. As he stands there, Ari approaches him looking puzzled and asks what he's doing. The question catches Dolan off guard because he always tends to his garden, and Ari knows that. Yet her confusion deepens as she asks why he'd bother, given that the village is about to be abandoned. Dolan is stunned and demands to know why they would do such a thing, but Ari shrugs, admitting she doesn't know the details. All she's been told is that everyone is supposed to leave the village tonight to search for new homes, but none of that shit makes sense to Dolan. There's no immediate danger, and there's nowhere else for them to live, so why the hell would the village chief make such a drastic decision? Determined to get answers, Dolan heads to the town hall to confront the village leaders. He asks them directly if it's true that they're planning to abandon the village, and the chief confirms it, stating that the decision has already been made, and everyone will need to start searching for new homes. Dolan is incredulous and presses further, asking how they could leave the place they've called home for so long. But everyone including the chief says that they never considered this village their home to begin with. The following day, Dolan notices that some villagers have already begun leaving. He stops a couple packing up their belongings and asks if they're leaving so soon. The couple explains that with a child to care for, it's safer to leave as early as possible to find a new place to settle. Dolan then leans in to take a look at the baby, but the couple abruptly pulls the child away, and that shit act feels deeply out of character again, leaving Dolan with a sinking feeling in his chest. The couple then bids farewell to Dolan and leaves the village in their carriage. A few others are also departing, leaving Dolan in a state of uncertainty about what to do next. Even Majoru is busy packing her belongings to move away, and when she notices Dolan engrossed in one of her books, she casually tells him he can keep it since she won't need it anymore. Ari, curious about his plans, asks what he intends to do now, and Dolan firmly replies that he has no intention of leaving the village. Ari is surprised and questions if he's really certain about staying, pointing out that the village will soon be deserted. But Dolan remains resolute because this is his home, and he won't abandon it no matter what. Later that evening, the last few villagers leave, and even Dolan's family is preparing to go. They urge him one final time to reconsider, asking if he's absolutely sure he doesn't want to come with them. Dolan, however, stands by his decision and tells them that he refuses to let the village die and will stay, even if it means being the only one left. Before they leave, he asks his family to write to him when they find a new home so he can visit. His mother, however, doubts he'll ever visit because deep down, she knows he's always been special. Later, the village is almost entirely empty, yet Christina lingers and confronts Dolan, calling him pathetic for clinging to a place that's all but abandoned. Dolan is taken aback again and feels that something is odd because Christina would never talk to him like that. Then, as Dolan wanders the deserted village, the reality begins to sink in. The home he once knew is gone, but the silence is broken only by Selena, the last person still around. Dolan makes his way to her house and finds her in the middle of preparing soup. She admits she was about to come looking for him to share some, but since he's already there, she invites him to join her. The soup might not compare to the one Dolan had made for her when they first met, but she hopes it will at least bring him some comfort. Touched by her kindness, Dolan thanks her. But then suddenly the peace is shattered by a loud explosion echoing from across the village. Dolan and Selena then rush toward the source of the explosion, only to discover Christina standing before Dolan's burning house. Dolan gets stunned and demands to know if she is responsible, and Christina smirks and cheerfully admits it, even revealing that some of the remaining villagers helped her. She explains that since Dolan refuses to leave the village, she decided to force him out by destroying everything he cares about. So Dolan furiously shouts that house or no house, he will never leave the village. Christina sighs, disappointed by his resolve, but to push him further, she announces her intention to burn something else and begins walking toward his fields. Dolan panically grabs her hand to stop her and yells, asking how she could even think of doing such a thing. But Christina shrugs and replies that the fields won't matter once he leaves the village, so why not destroy them too? Dolan is desperate to understand what's come over Christina, so he turns to Selena and starts begging her to help talk sense into Christina. But to his shock, he notices that Selena has packed her bags and is preparing to leave the village as well. He pleads with her to stay, telling her they could build a happy life together in the village. Christina, however, interrupts with a cruel laugh, calling him pathetic for refusing to face reality, and she coldly declares that no one wants to be around him anymore, and adds that his human act was never convincing, and everyone already knows what he truly is, so they would never want to be associated with him again. Her words cut deeper than any wound, plunging Dolan into despair. For the past 16 years, he had dedicated himself to helping the village, believing he was doing something meaningful. Yet now, a voice in his head whispers that he was only feeding his own ego, and that no one ever truly cared for him. But suddenly Dolan wakes up, and he finds himself back in his original dragon form, sitting in the heart of the volcano he once called home. Confused and disoriented, he notices that the wound inflicted by the hero who killed him is gone. So he begins to wonder if the last 16 years of his life as a human are nothing more than a dream. Then the voice in Dolan's head persists, trying to convince him that his life as a human was nothing more than a fleeting dream. It insists that he is, and always will be, the great dragon destined to protect mankind, nothing more, nothing less. Though Dolan resists accepting this as his reality, he feels hope slipping away. So he resignedly begins to believe that he will live a life of solitude once again, just as the voice wanted. But then suddenly, a familiar voice calls out his name, and to his astonishment it's Selena. This is her first time seeing him in his dragon form, yet she immediately recognizes him as the same Dolan she knows and cherishes. The fear that his human life might have been a cruel illusion grips Dolan, but Selena's presence is undeniable proof of its reality. Yet he can't help but wonder how she managed to find him here. But Selena herself doesn't fully understand, and all she remembers is falling asleep, hoping to see Dolan by morning, only to awaken in this strange place. To confirm she remembers him, Dolan hesitantly asks Selena to recount their time together. She smiles and begins recalling their shared memories. She describes how they first met while taking down an earth elemental, how they worked together to earn the village's acceptance of her, and how warmly everyone eventually welcomed her. She reminds him how he always gave her strength when she was afraid and protected her whenever she was in danger. Then, with a tenderness that fills the air, she asks to be lifted closer. And when he obliges, she hugs him tightly and thanks him for changing her life. But Dolan softly replies that he should be the one thanking her. Having Selena in his life, he tells her, has been one of the greatest blessings he's ever known. Then, as the moment lingers, Selena begins to feel an unusual drowsiness, even though she's already asleep. So Dolan assures her gently, promising that when she wakes, it will be morning again. He sends her back to the real world, and with Selena's presence confirming that his human life wasn't an illusion, Dolan realizes this whole experience is nothing more than a nightmare, and he has a good idea about who's behind it, and it's Calvith, the fallen goddess of destruction. And if Calvith is here, Dolan knows exactly what it means. She must be preparing to challenge him once again, just as she did in his past life. Dolan sees her standing there and can't believe she's here. Calvith smirks, saying she came all the way from the demon realm just to take him down. He scoffs, telling her she sure gave him one hell of a nightmare. Calvith doesn't back down. She says she had every right to do it. He abandoned her, just like all the other dragons and gods who decided to end their long lives. She steps closer, eyes burning, asking how he could do that. Dolan sighs. She's right. He gave up on his life as a dragon. But after being reborn as a human, after meeting people who truly cared about him, he learned something real. Back then, he didn't have the strength to keep going. But now he's gonna live his life to the fullest, and no matter what comes his way, he ain't backing down. Calvith just laughs, shaking her head, says he's got a talent for dramatic speeches now, but she ain't letting him walk away with the last word. She grins. He's still inside her dream, her domain, and in here, she's untouchable. The ground splits beneath them, magma boiling up from the cracks. She calls forth a monster, an eldritch horror dragon that once gave Dolan and the hero hell. But Dolan doesn't let her finish. No hesitation. He smacks her and her beast with his tail, then winds up a punch so hard it blasts a hole right through the thing. The beast crumples, wrecked in an instant. Dolan shakes his head, muttering that he's gonna need to dunk his face in acid just to wipe that nasty image from his brain. Then he turns to Calvith, tells her to get lost, and slams another punch into her. She stumbles, tries to stop him with a desperate apology, but it's too late. She takes the hit full force. Somehow she survives. Tears well up in her eyes, and she says it's not fair how he's still this strong even after reincarnation. Dolan looks at her, saying his soul hasn't changed, even if he's human now. Then he tells her something worse. The evil gods placed a curse on him, eternal reincarnation. Every time he's reborn, his soul weakens a little. Someday, it'll disappear completely. Calvith doesn't like hearing that. Even after all their fights, she sees Dolan as a friend. He nods, saying he feels the same way. She smiles at that, then takes off into the sky, telling him she'll be back to mess with him again. His dream fades, and he wakes up in bed. Selena stands outside his window, calling his name. He tells her he had a bad dream last night. Then he looks at her and asks what she would do if she ran into an armored bear during a hunt. She steps into his room, crossing her arms, saying she'd use her magic eyes to send it home. No reason to fight if you don't have to. Dolan starts cracking up, finally getting that this is the real deal. After that, they hit up the local pub, and Christina's there sipping on Mew's milk. Dolan drops the news that he's heading to the Magic Academy after all, and Selena ain't too happy about it. Christina asks what made him change his mind, and he tells her about this dream where their village got wiped out. That got him thinking about the Academy's offer learning more so he can protect it. Soon he's off to the city for the entrance exams. Everybody sends him off with good vibes, but Selena can't shake off the worry that he won't come back. In the exam, Dolan uses some ancient formula to solve the questions, and Calvith, who only showed up to mess with him, starts calling him a old-timer. She snuggles up to him, but Dolan, trying to ignore her, goes into meditation. The examiner, though, thinks he's straight up dozing off in the middle of the test. That ticks him off, so he snatches Dolan's answer sheet and tells him his practical exam is scheduled for the next day. Meanwhile, back in the village, Selena joins the knights on a hunt, but her head's all over the place thinking about Dolan. Captain Balin tells her to stay alert, and she instantly assumes they're under attack. She unleashes her magic power without a second thought, only to end up injuring the knights. That leaves her feeling awful. Later, she goes home and picks up a children's book. She remembers how Dolan was the one who taught her to read the local language and wonders how he's doing at the academy. She knows he'll become a great mage and help the village. She wants to be there with him. But then reality hits. She's a monster, and folks in the city would be terrified of her. Maybe it's fine if she's not by his side. After all, her main goal, according to Lamia tradition, is to find a husband. If Dolan's busy with the academy, maybe she should start looking. But then his face pops into her head, and it all clicks. He's the one. The one she's been searching for all this time. She's dead sure now she loves Dolan. She wants to bring him back to the village, but she knows he won't leave. Even if being with him would be the happiest thing in her life, it might never happen. So she makes up her mind she needs to leave. The next day, Dolan returns to the village after his exam and rushes straight to Selena's house. But she's gone. All that's left are 2 letters, one for the villagers and one for him. In his letter, she tells him she's setting off on her journey to find a husband. She apologizes for leaving so suddenly, saying it would have been too hard to say goodbye face to face, so she leaves him with words on a page instead. Dolan freezes when he reads the letter, then takes off after Selena. Desperate to reach her, he shifts into his dragon form, flying at full speed. By evening, Selena has traveled far from the village. She stops to rest, her mind still on Dolan. Suddenly, something massive passes overhead, making her tense up. Before she can react, Dolan lands right next to her. She freaks out at first, but then gets awkward as he silently walks beside her. They reach the lake where they first met. Selena looks at the water, saying that even though it's only been a few months, it feels like they've known each other forever. Dolan brings up his academy exam, telling her that he asked if students could bring their familiars. The instructor said yes. Then he looks at her and says that if she's willing, he wants to form a contract with her so she can come with him. Selena's heart pounds. This is what she wanted, but she refuses to accept it yet. She yells that Lamia are monsters that eat humans. If he's seen with one, people will hate and fear him, making his time at the academy miserable. Dolan doesn't hesitate. He says that if anyone talks badly about her, he'll deal with them. But before she can argue, she slips into the lake. Dolan rushes in to help, but she keeps telling him to let go. He tells her he doesn't care if people hate him, he wants to see the world with her by his side. Selena tears up and hugs him, saying she truly wants to go with him. Back in the village, Dolan gets the news that he passed the entrance exam. The village which helps form the contract between him and Selena, and she's overjoyed that she can stay with him now. When they leave, the whole village gathers to see them off. A redhead who likes Dolan tells Selena she'll be coming to the academy next year and asks her to look after him. As the carriage moves, Dolan tells the villagers that if anything happens, he'll come back to protect them. Tears well in his eyes, and Selena wipes them away before they fall. Later, Selena starts drooling, realizing she's Dolan's lover now. But then she replays everything in her mind and realizes he might have meant it as a friend, not a lover. The thought makes her uneasy. But then Dolan tells her he'd love to visit her village someday, and just hopes she doesn't get bored of him before then. She flashes him a big smile, hyped to share his success as he rises to become a legendary wizard with her right by his side. Meanwhile, Anime Scar's over there watching, waiting to break down Season 2 for you when it drops. Thanks for watching. Hope you had a blast. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, your support keeps me going.